things out of order just a little bit to get one to accommodate one of the petitions and get him out of here because he's not ready. But could I entertain a motion to move petition 3, to continue petition 3 to the next meeting, which is 3/21?
Yep. So moved.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
So moved.
See you, Kev.
See you next
Well,
time.
have a good night down here.
All right, so now we'll get back in order here. So petition 1 is determine the completeness of application and consider waivers. It's a petition for a special use permit filed by Louis Raymond and Richard Erickson on behalf of themselves with permission from property owner Robert McKay, who has a mailing address of 2160 Rowley Way, Ballston Spa, New York, 12010, and located at 1 Parks Falls Road, Hopkinton, Rhode Island, 02833, identified as Assessor's Plat 26, Lot 10, in an RFR-A zone, filed in accordance with Section 8C and 10 of Chapter 134 of the zoning ordinance of the town of Hopkinton as amended. Is the applicant or representative present today?
Yeah.
How you doing? So typically, we're at a pre-app fee, which is what we call it, and we're going to go through a checklist to just make sure we have everything that we need so that next month we can have it here.
I understand, and I'm glad to be here,
Okay.
and I'm grateful for your oversight.
All right, thank you very much. So, we, you have your list? So Joe's going to read off the list where you're going to hear us babble away for a little while, make sure everything's in order, and he might ask you a couple questions.
I'm looking forward to answering that.
You got the floor, Joe.
All right, let's start with checklist item A, which is 3 copies of a site plan prepared by, signed, and stamped by a professional engineer or personal land surveyor at a scale of no less than 1 inch to 40 feet, clearly shown. Hey, now.
We got the plans that are about 40 foot.
It's 10 feet to the inch.
Wow, that's a big set of things.
Yeah.
Just blown up a lot.
Just blown up a lot.
1 inch is 10 feet. Yeah, that's good for our easy reader people.
It's good for us blind people with glasses.
Right? Yes.
Name and address of property owner?
Right there? Yep, that's on there.
Date, North Arrow, graphic scale, lot dimensions and area.
Yes.
It was a massive.
It better have it, not that. Oh, plat and lot,
Yes.
zoning districts and setbacks.
So I think so. Barbara can read that.
Right there.
It's a good thing.
Existing and proposed structures and their relationship and distances from lot boundary lines.
It's up there.
Show me. Yeah.
I guess
Steam pictures enough. Yes.
yeah, that looks good.
All right, existing and proposed parking areas and sidewalks.
It's up in the city.
Driveway.
What's there?
Okay, that's good.
Existing and proposed landscaping as it relates to the request.
Not really.
It's flat lot, right?
Yeah. It's pre-existing.
Yeah. Existing streets, 911 address, well and septic system. I saw the well and septic right there. Okay. Any peculiar site conditions or features?
Just beside it now.
I like it.
It is good.
I like the color.
We need to amend our,
Make a motion to accept item A as complete.
So moved. Second?
all in favor?
Aye. Brings us to item B. 3 copies of a separate map indicating all property owners within 200 feet of the subject property and all those property owners and entities that require notice.
Yes, we do.
Okay. You want to read through that list? Should we have everybody?
We are going to start off with number 9. Number 9 is check. 10. Check.
That's the subject, so.
Let's see, let's skip down here, let's go to number 14, nope, excuse me, number 12. Yep, 13's there, 14's there. 15, yep, it's there, 16, yep. Then, let's see, is that 39?
That's across the street.
What's that little bit?
Yeah, what's that little, really?
Not noticed. I think that's part of it.
Part of 41 or just
Part
part
of
of?
30.
Just 40. Oh, 40 is, yeah, where's 40? Because we go to 39, then we go to,
Stand corrected, I think that little one is 40. It's so small.
it's gotta be.
It's so small that they don't know.
Okay, so that's what
Okay.
46.
Across the way. She's the big one.
We're good?
46 is good.
Yep, all set, yep.
Okay. Make a motion that item B is complete.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
So moved.
Okay, item C is the soil erosion and stormwater control plan.
I think we should worry about that later. We submitted.
Yeah, it's,
The way it says we proposed today, which is part of the building review.
Right.
what we got?
You clean up some. We don't need to in this instance.
I think specifically, when you get into other parking spaces and septic, it kind of all goes hand in hand. At some point, it's got to be seen.
Yeah.
Next, expanding now.
So right now, the 4 bedrooms is proposing 7 or something.
Where was the septic?
So we can make that subject to, subject, they don't have a subject.
A little better, we got an existing 4-bedroom septic approval as a repair application. The proposed is 7, we've got a note on here, E, which is that they plan on expanding septic design, that's not approval, but it kind of, what comes first, the chicken and egg.
Yeah, so we would make C subject to approval of E. Right?
We're just contingent on what's on it.
But it has to be finished.
Okay, if you look at the site plan, realize that's 10 scale. So what I've had to look at this plan right here, and if you're gonna fit 5 or 6 cars, parking, where is the septic going based on that? The garage.
Here's the septic.
Under the parking.
Here's the septic. Does it say, where is it?
That's the existing. ISD is 4 bedroom, is how big, if you go up the number, you have to go to septic.
Oh, yeah, yeah, look at the other bedroom, yeah.
This says it's tank fed, this driveway is between, and this is each.
Could I speak?
Sure. You can join in. This is all about you.
I appreciate, or rather I sympathize, because we were also in the chicken and egg situation on my side of this microphone. So there are a million incredibly important decisions to make, like where are the parking spaces, how big is the septic, all that stuff, we recognize that. And my, perhaps naive thought was that all those incredibly important questions would be addressed as part of the cycles of building and zoning submissions. We don't know the answer to these questions right now because we don't even know if the property can be a B&B, and we don't know what we would do. We have to work with, architects and all those important people. So we're going to know all the answers to those questions, but yes, it's very true, we don't know many of them now.
I just think it puts us in a tough situation that you're looking for X, and if you don't really support X, then how can we prove X? Number of bedrooms, specifically 7 units.
It would all have to be conditional approval.
So does that go to planning board then at that point, or?
We'll eventually come back here.
Depends on what they're seeking.
Well, but I read the application, it looks like they want 5 bedrooms in the house, right?
There could be.
And then 2 in the barn.
We're not sure how many could be done. We'd have to be working with an architect on that.
You see my,
Yeah.
Yes,
See both sides.
No, I understand you don't spend the money if you don't know what you can do, by the same token, how do you know what you can do if you don't spend the money?
So really, it's kind of asking for a conceptual opinion from us.
Yeah, but I don't know.
It's almost advisory, no?
Yeah.
Yeah, because you're increasing everything, or you could increase everything.
We can do it, go through the air, see if it could be with all these checks and balances.
Well, the zoning department should be doing that administratively, some sort of advisory.
It sounds fair to the applicant too, in terms of the zoning.
If I may too, what Mr. Raymond had explained to me was this is, at this point, they'd like to, there's a plan for this. They'd like to have a B&B, they'd like to possibly in the future, moving forward, it's going to be a step-by-step process, possibly acquire the property next to it with the restaurant. I think what their ultimate conception of this endeavor is to have a B&B with possibly a farm-to-table restaurant next door, and possibly the property on the left. The
Well,
personal
it's-
property.
It's really hard to know, and at this point, my sort of admitted exterior perception was that our big mission now is sort of this high level, that could be a B&D, but then, of course, the devil was in the details, but what B&D? Unbelievably important. And is that kind of questioning answered in the building and zoning and town planning reviews that are to come?
Necessarily.
Because we didn't even own the property yet, and it would be hard to consider buying a property that we didn't even know could become a B&B in the first place. So there's a big chicken and egg thing here, right?
I mean, specifically, you're asking to put the PDP on property. The bottom line is, and then to quantify the size or, to what extent, does that, I mean, depends on external, does that fall under strictly zoning, or is that kind of money?
So we'll be looking
I'll
at
be
the
both.
wire,
So-
yeah, absolutely. But I think at this phase, he's just seeking to find out if it would be feasible through the special use permit to, number one, have a B&B at that
At any,
location.
of any scale.
Of any scale.
Yeah, so that's kind of what I'm thinking in my head as we talk this through, is you have more info here in the waiver than we actually need. Because for the special use, like Sherry just said, we're looking to figure out if you can do a bed and breakfast, right? The number of bedrooms to us really doesn't matter. So if you did a 3-bedroom B&B, that's fine. So if you can come in, it's still a B&B. And then later on, if you come in to get an expansion of that, then we could.
I disagree with you. I think the number of bedrooms is important, that it's a scale. It's an RFRD zone, which is rural farm residential, which is the underlying zone.
Right.
It's not a pre-existing non-conforming lot of record. It's a residential lot,
Right.
and is therefore can be allowed by special use.
Right.
And therefore, the town has the ability to, limit. If a neighbor has, say, hypothetically 10 units, the neighbor might not care for that next door.
Is he specifically asking for 7?
That's
In
the
the
application.
application?
Yeah, it's easy that way.
Yeah.
It's the intent.
I actually, in the moment, can't really recall, because I just thought that would be determined at another phase.
Proposed 5 bedrooms,
In the main house.
Two
Two
garage barn.
I mean, 7 is certainly plausible, yes.
People don't agree with the air.
yeah, no, I am.
Information.
Because we're talking about 2 different structures too, which is poses another problem.
Just again, to play devil's advocate, we've done this not before, not specifically with this, but if in 10 years it's not a bed and breakfast, well, gee, now we're two-family, we've got 2 houses on one lot. Is that going to convert back to a barn or to a studio? Moving down that road. We just don't want to mislead the applicant either.
And one of the issues we have is you can't have 2 single-family units
Right,
on one
I understand.
lot. If we did something and we allowed it on special use, like Dan said, now all of a sudden we're letting essentially 2 residential homes show up on one lot, and we really can't do that.
Could do it as a deed restriction.
Well, yeah, I mean, we can do it as a special use, but that would be very out of character, I mean, we've never.
We've had a time with accessory dwelling units when they're kind of unique, when it's not meeting that threshold of 600 square feet attached to a house, same floor, you know, so it has a separate structure. Again, it's not to say it can't happen, but just, you know, can't.
Yeah, it's a little uncharted waters for us to,
I can see that. Is it helpful that it's all just one septic as opposed to like 2 separate septic?
no, it's more helpful if it was all in one building.
Well, the property is, you know, we want to respect the
It's got a lot of character.
wonderful structures that are there.
Sure.
Kind of looks like he needs to go back, consult an engineer,
Engineer and architect, like it's,
an architect,
And the land use agreement.
and work a little more closely with Sherry to get a closer package for us to talk about. Because if they can't get even a 7-bedroom septic there, with the well and everything else.
1,000 gallons a day.
Mr. Chairman, it's not another single-family dwelling unit, it doesn't have a kitchen. It's an extension of the main building. It doesn't meet the definition of a dwelling unit.
It's only a new septic system, right?
Well, I mean, that's,
The number of bedrooms.
you have to address the amount of bedrooms.
so the issue was having, Dana, what you're saying, the issue is, if we go to 7 bedrooms, we need a bigger septic, we need some kind of understanding on the septic, right? It's even if we can do seven bedrooms in here. And that's the question.
It doesn't meet, being according to a public well status.
I think it's based on, what, 20 some odd people, transient versus non-transient. Guys,
Yeah.
I think we should send it back for a little more research.
Have to talk, talk to an engineer, talk to architect or something like that.
And, I'm sorry, I just wasn't hearing you, your voice wasn't.
Oh, maybe
You could,
Yeah, no, I mean, I really don't know how to proceed with it either, I don't know.
I think that he works maybe with planning and zoning administration, so we get more of his questions answered, along with an architect and maybe a land use attorney, internally and administratively. Before he goes back to the board with some more detail, that would be the best.
That makes,
Because you can't give him legal advice on,
no.
he needs,
So I think what our attorney is telling us, our
that's
solicitor.
who you are.
Yes, she's our solicitor. Is that you take this back to the drawing table and work with Sherry
Hey, Dave.
and David,
and
Jim, which is the town planner.
Who I-
We still spend time with it, help you with that, too, so.
They have been marvelous so far, I have met with all of them already.
excellent.
Because that will lead you on a better
So-
path.
and the architect and the land use attorney.
All of those people are waiting in the wings, and we're nuts about
They
them.
should probably, yeah.
Well, we don't even own the property yet, and we don't even know we can do a PUD, so we were like, I mean, I guess we all recognize that you're asking us to take somewhat of a substantial leap of faith here. We might even buy a property and commission all this work and then not even know that it could be a B&B. I mean, is that a risk that you're asking, undertaking?
No, I mean, I think your offer would be contingent on getting those approvals.
is it possible you could do it in phases, and with what you have right now, do a 3-bedroom B&B?
It wouldn't be viable.
Not viable, but I'm just thinking that way, then the board could hear it at face value without you spending a lot of money on a new septic system and working on the other building, and at least have at face value what's there, see if the concept flies. No?
Yeah, but ordinarily what would happen is you come with a very detailed plan. Preliminarily, you don't have to purchase the property with your architect and attorney and present a plan that's
For
viable
for even just this,
before you make it a purchase, yeah. Or work with the department so that they're satisfied that it's viable, but it's gonna require a special use permit, which is a pretty significant request.
what did you mean by viable? Your voice just sort of,
That you would work with your experts
yes.
to come with a more detailed plan administratively to the planner and to zoning, and then bring it to the board. You could do that well prior to making an investment in purchasing, but you'd have to make some investment in
Right.
some experts to come with a plan that satisfies them.
Right.
It doesn't mean purchasing the property, but it does mean making.
Right. Well, yes. There are lots of trickinesses here, as I know you know. Well, I believe in the process, and I know how important it is that things are done the right way. So I am grateful for all the guidance you are providing. And I look forward to even more of it, because we're going to need it. But we really welcome it also.
So I think I would, you know, at a future date, contact Sherry, and then she can start to lead you in all the right directions, so we can get back and forth and do this all again with more detail, because there's some hoops, just basic hoops that you have to jump through, which is why we're doing this, just so that we can get to the hearing phase. And I mean, we just hit the third one, and we're stumbling already.
Maybe the board could delineate to him the things that you want to hear.
Yeah, so,
The concept is probably nice for that particular area.
Yeah.
And I agree with what Dan said in regards to, when Mr. Raymond had come into the office, this is obviously going to be a phased project as they move forward. And the possibility of potentially looking at this as a 4-bedroom B&B at this point.
And again, we are not people with money to waste. So the investment that we are making, or that people that we would invest to get in this, is substantial. And so we need to be respectful of the kinds of returns that are needed.
so is it viable to put 2 bedrooms in another structure without kitchen? And can we, we've not done it before. I don't think we've ever had it really proposed before.
Exactly.
That's right, so can be, so the kitchen and
Building the main building. And is that what that follows? I've never heard that one. I mean, I've been here 15 years.
We just need to know from a building code point of view if that's acceptable, we're okay with it.
Oh, yeah, as long as the main building has.
Right, that this is strictly a bedroom.
Right.
Yeah, but that's okay.
So,
Not from a septic standpoint, so.
Well, no, it's gonna have to be included in the septic design, but that's,
Not for existing.
well, the existing won't work for what they want to do, that's a given. But
It's all hinged on the DEM, see if they can even approve a system that large
for that
whatever
area.
it applies for.
So I'll fall back to the 100,000.
Well, I'm sure it'll be a system, that just depends on what it is, and where it is, bottom, you know, probably do that.
What else did you have to do, Susan? If you were to pick this up for April and try to do that for the other thing,
Yeah, 'cause conceptually, I think it would meet the criteria of the special use.
I think it's a great idea, but there's still hurdles that have to.
But it would fit the plan for the town. So that's the biggest hurdle.
So if we go to our special use permit application checklist, this is what we're reading from, it's in our zoning book, Sherry can provide you with a copy.
No,
You have, all right, so you have, so C is what we can't get by, is the soil and erosion stormwater control plan. So we need,
It's a site plan, generally. Site plan shows where the parking's gonna be, where the drainage is gonna be, where the
Right.
septic system's gonna be. It's the general site plan.
so we need something more detailed than what you gave us.
Admittedly, that was the septic plan. There is not a site plan that is extant that we were able to identify, so. So,
So we need that, and then we, I don't think we're gonna need a biologist. So D should be fine when we go to E, which is the location of the existing septic. You did give us that, but you're looking to expand it, so, how is he gonna do that? Because he's,
That's all evaluation has to do, is considered new construction.
yeah,
Once you go one bedroom, it goes from a repair to an alteration to new construction. So he's gonna have a soil evaluation done, engineered septic system. and like that.
so that's where you're gonna have to pay for an engineer to have him design a septic. He'll know,
Well, if he retains an engineer, they can do the soil eval from that.
he'll know
That
what's
little bit
viable.
of work, the engineer will be able to tell him what kind of system will focus on that.
Right.
And at that point, they're gonna know money-wise what they're up against as well for that, and we have something to talk about.
Right,
Now, when you go from 4 to over here, septic, can you add on to this, or do you have to replace the whole thing?
The tank's gonna be new, the square footage is gonna be new, there's nothing in this system that's gonna stay.
Rob, if you look at that footprint right there, and now figure you're almost doubling the number of bedrooms.
Right.
You're almost doubling that space with a conventional septic system, and you still have to meet the distance from wells and so forth, so.
Yeah.
Well, like the D-night system, something kind of compact,
You're building something, you're definitely expanding it closer to.
and you need a space for parking.
That's right.
Probably gonna be a
We
little
have
step.
engineers,
Yep.
enough,
Yep.
I was gonna say, look from the well, but it's not.
So it's on there, it's on there, it's both there, there's 2 radiuses.
New well over there.
What's it gonna be, 100 feet in?
may I speak?
Sorry?
Sorry, may I speak?
yeah, oh, yeah.
Sorry, I mean,
No, we're having a discussion, so you can do part of it.
I don't want to get out ahead of my skis here, if that's the expression. All of these issues that you were bringing up, believe me, swirl in our heads as well. One of the solutions with them, parking among them, well, all of that, is to, which I allude to in my thing, is to reach an agreement with the owner of 485 Main Street, who is the sole debtor here. The well is very problematic, as I understand it is not potable water, for example, and the septic can be expanded in the current part of that end of the property, but the well would have to be on the 485 Main Street. We understand that, and we would be exploring, whatever arrangement that is with that house. Also, there would be parking there also. There was a room for the required number of spaces on this property.
And that's all things we need to know, in terms of the
So,
package.
he has other waiver requests, would we want to go through those to let him know? I mean, because like I'm looking at, the only other one here that really, I think is a crux is possibly is the fact that, right? He's now bringing, patrons, a lot more into that property on a corner lot, and depending on how the entrances are and stuff like that. I don't know if it disrupts the neighborhood, and that, I don't know, what you,
7 bedrooms, technically you could bring 7 cars.
do you think, I mean, it's up to you guys, if you don't think traffic
It's
studies.
already on Route 3, the busiest road in town. I think it'd be wisdom.
I think there's bigger hurdles to clear.
That would be one I'd be comfortable with waiving.
So, in that thought, I mean, directly adjacent to it is, what's it called now, it used to be,
There's one at a time.
right, so there's a small restaurant slash catering.
Is that what's 485 Main Street?
There was actually a lake that.
That's 493.
Yeah.
The second time was on the 493 property.
So
They are not the owners of that property.
I can get track of that.
No, which one, that's the one on the purchase though.
Or other things might happen there, but if we need to get control of one parcel, I'm sure there's a part of it.
So are we talking about the first one house or that?
What I was saying, sorry, I was referring to that the whole question of access into One Park Falls Road, I get it. My, perhaps Olympian vision was that the access would actually be through the driveway of 485 Main Street.
Which is the Thurston house.
Yeah,
Yes, which gives out onto both Main Street and
So-
Perkins Road.
just, again, back to the traffic, if we think of all the things that are here, we've got the town hall has a lot of traffic. We've got the housing down here at the end, so a lot of traffic. The restaurant we just talked about has a lot of traffic, and then, this gray house, what was this one? We have the post office, which has a lot of traffic. And then across the street from, the restaurant, that used to be a bed and breakfast. On the other side of, Woodville Road.
That's our understanding also.
Yes, so, I mean, that was, God, we sold that a million years ago as a bed and breakfast. I'm trying to remember the name of it. It was like Thurston Wells House or something, unless that was it. I can't remember, I can think of the names. But that was,
Thurston house is right next door.
yeah. And- Oh, that was the,
That's the sandwich store.
yes,
Yellow.
yeah.
The yellow.
But the one I'm talking about was the one across from.
Another corner, there used to be
Yes,
Lanfair
sorry.
Campus.
Yep.
Used to be Lanfair Campus.
So, I mean, it's, Hopkinton's in the city, not that it's a city, we have a lot of activities, so, I mean, I was, I'm fine with the traffic situation. So, the topography,
It's on a part and parcel of the site.
exactly. So,
The engineer is probably his key guy.
Engineer, right.
and then the same thing with the water supply, he's putting in a new well,
That's gonna be, that's all under the engineer. All that gets taken care of with one guy.
yeah, so, I mean, so, I think,
That's good to know, thank you. So that would be all part of the septic plan. So you get that, you got everything.
so if you ask for waivers on C, E, and H right now, we really can't give them to you. You can contact an engineer. But Dan said once he gives us a set of plans and we see something more formal, then we can start really talking. And then you'll really know where you're at, too. I mean, if you can, if a seven-bedroom septic is viable.
But other than that, it all gets taken care of with the engineer.
So why don't we move on to D, F, and G, because then we can have those already in the can.
Right.
And then the other ones, you can come back for C, E, and H, at a future date.
I am here. I live right up the street.
Oh, yeah, okay.
I have the white picket fence right next to the.
Oh, all right, you're right over here.
I'm in the city.
Gotcha. You understand the city then?
For 20-some years, so we are here.
So, would you like a motion to table checklist items, the ones that we're not going to decide on? Or we don't just let them hang?
Why don't you move that you approve certain ones, and then you're gonna table certain ones, and then at his pleasure, kick it to March 3rd, 21st, or April?
So, can I entertain a motion that we table checklist items C, E, and H, also this waiver request? Second. All in favor? Aye. So those will be tabled for a future date, which you can work with Sharon on. So now we're gonna move on to, Joe's gonna move on to
D, so we're on D, F, and G.
D, F, and G. So let's work through those.
D, E, and G, and C are gonna be addressed by the engineer.
Do you think D needs to be done?
I think we wanna table that, and let's see what the engineer comes back with.
So,
Because it's gonna be his job to flag any wetlands that are on that property, to how to do this.
so we'll recalculate. Can I entertain a motion to table checklist item D as well? So, second. All in favor?
Aye.
So that's the governance table. So we'll move to F, which is the traffic study.
I'll move to waive that.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. G.
G also will be part of the engineering project, the new site.
Move to table it.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye. Thank you.
All right, so H was tabled. All right, so yeah, 3/4 of it was tabled.
Well, there were so many waivers, it's not surprising.
But,
Well, And some of them are gonna be taken care of with your septic plan, so
Most
you
all
don't
of
really
it.
need to even ask for them because they're gonna be taken care of, so.
Well, this is progress already.
Well, you have a little bit of direction.
Our experience is this proceeds by inches, but every inch forward is an inch forward, so.
So,
Roger.
would you prefer to be on for March, or would you want to go to April? I mean, we can put it on, and if you're not ready, we can.
Oh, yes, I would prefer, sooner is better than later.
Okay. Can I entertain a motion to move this to the March, what was it, 21st?
Yeah.
I'll swing it, so moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, all right, so hopefully we'll see you with a little more info. All
I'll get to work.
right, thank you.
Thank you. Truly, I really appreciate this.
Good luck.
Yes, good luck. Thank you. Okay. Wow, I got it.
Oh, yeah, you're up.
That's right.
All right, so we're gonna move on to petition 2 now, which is that's a hearing for petition for dimensional variance filed by Kelly Picasso, Esquire, on behalf of Thurston F. and Sherry J. Ponte, with mailing address of 25 East Drive, Oak Valley, Rhode Island, 02822. The property owned by them located at 25 East Drive, Oak Valley, Rhode Island, 02822, identified as assessor plat 18, lot 65, in R1 zone, and filed in accordance with section 9 of chapter 134. The zoning ordinances of the town of Hopkinton as amended. Should have a representative present.
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 Good evening. Kelly Picasso for Thurston Insurance Fund. What we're looking for here is a 13 and some foot sideline variance, basically to sanction the location of an existing garage. Ponte's purchased this property in October of 2017, not knowing that a lean-to which was attached to the side of this shed was actually encroaching on the other people's property, and they also didn't know that this shed was illegal in that it also encroached within the 15-foot setback. And that's some of the evidence which I'm going to introduce tonight, because that's going to have a bearing on what type of a hardship we can prove here. The Pontes received a notice of violation on October 22nd of 2018 that precipitated the removal of the lean-to and also this variance petition. Before I get going, before I forget, I'm going to file the affidavit of notice along with the green cards. And with that, I would like to introduce some testimony from Sherry Ponte.
Stand with you?
Yep.
Okay.
All right, so could you state your name for the record?
Sherry Ponte.
Sure, go ahead. Yes.
Do you solemnly swear the testimony you should give the truth, the whole truth, nothing but the truth, so help you God?
Yes. Mrs. Ponte, you own property located at 25 Keith Drive in Hopkinton, correct?
Correct.
Right, you own that with your husband Thurston Ponte?
Yes, I do.
I'm going to show you a document. Do you recognize this?
That was our deed that we received at closing of the
Okay.
purchase.
That's a deed to your property, correct?
Mhm.
And the date of this deed is October 20th of 2017?
It is.
All right, and the person you took title from was a Peter Darsh, is that correct?
That's correct.
All right. And is this a true and accurate copy of the deed by which you took title to the property?
I say yes.
Exhibit 1, please. Now, Mrs. Ponte, at the time that you, well, first of all, let me show you, I'm going to show you the site plan. And this is the site plan which is attached to the application. And I just need you to point out a few things on this. And if I could just have this marked as an exhibit before we get going. How long before you took title did you and your husband go and view this property?
How many times?
How long before you took title did you go see the property?
8 weeks?
Okay, so about a couple of months before you took title, we're talking back in August of 2017,
Right,
is that
yes.
correct?
Yes.
All right. And I'm going to show you the site plan of the property, which is attached to the application here. And if we take a look at the north, I guess my directions are correct, the northeast side of the property, you see what's labeled a barn there, is that correct?
Correct.
The first time that you saw this property, what did you see in the area in which is marked a barn there? Tell us what you saw.
Workshop, barn, was just a structure there with a lean-to on it.
Okay, and that was there the first time that you saw it?
Oh, absolutely, yes.
Did you have any discussions with Mr. Darsh regarding that barn? Or that shed, I guess?
Not with Mr. Darsh.
Did you have any discussions with anybody else about the shed?
Yes, we did.
What discussions did you have with whom?
Asked his realtor if they had gotten the necessary building permits for that, because he said he just had built it. He had built it recently.
When you say he said he just built it, who's he?
Oh, I'm sorry, Peter Darsh.
Okay. And what was the response?
Yes, his realtor said yes, he had gotten the necessary permits, building permits.
Okay. Did you, based upon that, did you explore the issue further?
No.
Now, when did you first learn about the fact that the lean-to encroached on the other people's property? That's the Dialmos, is that correct?
That's correct.
When did you first learn that?
I believe it was October of 2018, we received a letter from the town of Hopkinton.
It's in the packet, I'm just going to introduce it into the record and have the
Thank you.
witness identify it. Do you recognize that?
Yes, yes, this is the letter that we received.
Okay. And is that a true and accurate copy of the letter which you received from the zoning official?
Yes, it is.
Okay. So the three, please. And once you received that, tell us what you did in response.
I called the town, the zoning department.
And what discussions did you have?
The person that I needed to deal with, I believe it was Sherry, she was not available, but I did speak to a gentleman, I want to say Charlie.
And what discussions did you have?
I asked him what are the necessary steps to remedy it, and he said it was outlined in the paper, in the letter that we received.
Okay. And is this variance application part of the response to that notice of violation?
Yes, it is.
Okay. And just getting back a little bit to what you informed about the shed before you took title to the property, I'm going to show you I'm going to use this one right here. I'm going to show you a document. Do you recognize that?
Yes, I do.
Okay. And can you tell us what that is, please?
It's a disclosure form for the sale of the property at 25 Keys Drive.
And do you recognize that as the disclosure form which you received?
Yes, I do.
Okay. And you see the date at the top of it on the first page?
Yes,
And that's August 30th of 2017, is that correct?
correct.
And is this a copy of the document which you received?
Yes, it is.
Okay. If you can take a look at the second page there, and we see item number 13, easements and encroachments, is that correct?
Yes,
And there's also a line there which states, does the seller have any knowledge of encroachments? And what was checked off?
no,
And if we go down, we see 15, zoning historical, is that correct? You see that there?
Yes.
Okay. And there's also a line there, is the current use non-conforming in any other way? And we see no correct there, is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay. And we also see down at the bottom where it says, well, you initialed this, is that correct?
Yes, we did.
Okay. Both you and your husband initialed that, is
Yes.
that right? All right. And other than the highlights which we have there, is that a true and accurate copy of the document which you received from Mr. Darcy or his agents?
Yes.
Exhibit, please. Does the lean-to still exist?
It does not.
And when was that taken down? If you recall.
The last week of January 2019.
Now, I'm going to show you a photograph. Do you recognize what's in
I
there?
do.
Tell us what you see.
This is our shed minus the lean-to.
And when was that photograph taken?
I took that today.
And how long has that shed been in that location? As long as you can.
As, since at least August of 2017.
Okay, so that was there before you took title to the property, is that
Absolutely.
correct?
Yes.
Same shed, right?
Yes,
Same
yes.
location.
Yes.
Exhibit, please. And I'm going to show you another photograph. Do you recognize that?
Yes, I do.
Yeah, what do you recognize?
This is our shed with lean-to.
Okay, and that was taken...
I'm going to say early January.
And do you see the difference in color between the floor inside and
I do.
the pavement outside? Do you know what the floor consists of inside?
Yeah, it's cement.
Okay. Is that a concrete slab?
It is.
All right, it sits on a slab, is that correct?
Yes, it does.
All right. And does this photograph fairly and accurately depict what you just described?
Yes, it does. All right, just going to the interior of the shed. I'm going to show you another photograph. Do you recognize what's in that? I do.
Tell us what you see.
That's the inside of my shed, the cement floor. I've got a lawnmower in there. There's a couple of leaf blowers.
What sort of items do you keep in that shed?
I have a golf cart, a lawnmower. It's a big lawnmower. It's one of those zero turns. There's several other things. There's a generator, leaf blowers, gas cans,
How full is that?
tools.
How full is that shed?
It's pretty full.
Where would you put that stuff if you didn't have a shed to put it in?
I don't know.
Does that photograph fairly and accurately depict what you just described?
It does.
Now, Mrs. Ponte, you're familiar with the general area where you live, is that correct?
Yes.
All right. And have you observed structures similar to your shed on any neighboring properties?
Several.
Where do you typically see the sheds located on these properties? The ones which you've seen?
Backyards, side yards.
Okay. So is it fairly common to have a shed similar to what you have on your property on neighboring properties?
Yes.
Certainly not out of place with a neighbor,
No.
correct? I'm going to show you a photograph here. Do you recognize what that shows?
I do.
Tell us what it shows.
It shows, it's an aerial view of my home at 25 Keith Drive, my neighbors,
that the shed was, the lean-to was encroaching on, and my neighbor's on the other side.
All right, also shows a driveway servicing your property, is that correct?
Yes, correct.
All right, and can you tell us what the, basically the condition of the land is of your property, as shown in this photograph?
Treed. The condition,
You have lawn area,
just, I have lawn in the front, I have some lawn in the back, a little bit on the side, but then there's trees around most of it.
and you see the Diamos property, which is to your north, sort of, northeast?
If I'm facing my home, they're on my left.
Okay. And do you see their house there?
I do.
All right. And you see a structure up in the upper left corner of the property?
Correct,
And
yes.
what do you recognize that as?
That's their shed.
And looking at the neighboring property, which if you go over their boundary onto another property, you see a structure there,
I do,
almost immediately across from it?
right.
Do you know what that is?
I'd be guessing.
Okay, so you don't know what that
I was
is?
gonna say no, I don't.
But it's pretty obvious that there is some structure right there, is that correct?
It looks like a shed.
And does this photograph fairly and accurately depict what you've just described?
Yes,
And does it fairly and accurately depict what your property looked like from the time that you purchased it up until now?
well, we've lost a couple trees.
Okay, when did you lose trees?
March 2018, we had a really bad windstorm. And we had a few trees come down.
Okay. Where did those trees come down?
This tree right here,
That's on the other side of the property?
yes.
Well, we're not going to worry about those.
A tree right in here.
When you say right in here, where is right in here?
Between us and the Diamos.
Okay.
And then several back here.
All right, and when you say back here, just for the record, tell us where that is.
It would be behind my shed.
Directly behind your shed?
Directly behind,
How far behind? Just roughly.
not really directly behind, more to the left,
Okay.
maybe about 20 feet.
If I can have this mark, please. Just mark that back. All right, Mrs. Ponte, I'm going to show you what's been marked as Exhibit 8 here. How is your, do you know where your well is located?
Oh, I do,
Where is it located?
in the front yard, right up here.
Okay, could you draw a circle and put a W in it? Try to do it as clearly as you can, showing where your well is located. Doesn't come up very well, just do it as best as you can. And how is your property serviced by utilities?
Oh, they're underground,
Do you know where those underground utilities run from and where they run to?
I do.
And just tell us where they run from and where they run to.
They run from the front of my property on the left of the driveway, under the driveway, across the front of the attached garage to the house.
Okay, and can you draw roughly where those underground utilities are located? Just draw one, if it is a one. Okay. And do you know where your septic system is
I do,
located?
yes.
And just roughly where is that
In
located?
the backyard.
Okay, and if you could draw a circle where it's located and just draw this, please. Anyone got a Sharpie? Okay, bless you. All right. If you could draw the circle on the W, and the line for the utilities. And if you could just circle where the septic system is located and just put an S there. Much better, thank you very much. Thank you. Can you see this, John? And do your notations on here fairly and accurately depict your understanding where your well is located, your septic system, and your underground utilities?
Yes.
Now, Mrs. Ponte, how much, is it typical in your neighborhood to see sheds of the type that you have located right in the front yard of the property? How often do you see them right smack in the front yard?
You don't.
Thank you. Now, have you considered moving the shed from its current location?
We did originally, before we had the lean-to taken off, we did consider it.
Where would you be able to put it if you considered it?
Nowhere really.
Why not?
Well, it can't go in the backyard because of the septic. The front yard has a well. You can't dig the underground utilities. That seems to be the best spot for it. Do you know what, do you have any idea as to what moving the shed would entail? What kind of work would be involved? Or does your husband know that? We would have to hire a building mover.
And how about a slab?
We'd have to have a new slab poured.
Cost a lot of money?
I imagine.
Well, take a look at some of the exhibits. That's not too much. Mrs. Ponte, I'm going to refer you to exhibit number 5, the photograph. And you see a vehicle parked there?
Yes,
Okay. And you see a fence to the right of the vehicle?
yes.
How long has that fence been there?
Since at least August of 2017, the first time we saw it.
All right, so that fence pre-existed your purchase of the property?
Correct.
Do you know how much distance is between the side of the shed and that fence? Just roughly.
8 feet?
And if you move the shed further that distance, you would have to take down that fence, is that correct?
We would.
And what do you have directly on the other side of that fence?
Grass in our firewood.
And how long has that firewood been there?
Last summer,
Okay.
so I guess it would be, we'll say the summer of 2018.
All right, do you store any other items in that area, just on the other side of that fence?
No, just the wood.
Okay.
It does have, in this photo, there's a ladder, but we had to take the ladder off the van.
Oh, okay.
So that's not a mistake.
I have no further questions.
Thank you.
That's all I have.
Thank you, Counselor. Do we know when the shed was built?
Don't know when it was built, but it just predates my folks purchasing the property.
You guys have any questions for the owner or Mr. Picasso?
For your client, copy? Sure, come on up, Sherry.
You gotta wait till it's clear.
My copies.
that you relied on the representation of an agent that was representing the seller
Correct.
as to the building permits. Who was that agent?
I forget her last name. Her first name was Amy from Albert Realtors. She was actually a resident of the home that we purchased. She was the owner's partner.
Were you represented? You have?
Yes.
What were they using the shed for at that time?
He had a Jeep in it, a tall Jeep. Amongst other things, his lean-to was loaded, and he had canoes, and they had four-wheelers, and
when you reviewed the disclosures, did you question him on anything else that you saw in those disclosure forms?
did not.
Did you have the property inspected?
Yes.
Now, well, was there ever a survey that came into play during the purchase or the offer? Did you ever see a
No, we did
survey of the
not.
property?
No, we did not see one.
Are there any restrictive covenants to the association? Any associations that?
Not that I'm aware of. We weren't presented with any.
Do you know of any?
I don't.
Is there
I
an
would explore that
association?
issue.
There's an association over there?
Well, I'm assuming they have something. At the very least.
If I could answer your question to it, if you don't mind.
No, go right ahead.
I'm John Brunero, I represent the next door
I'm
neighbor.
sorry. Can
I'm
you-
sorry, John Brunero, B-R-U-N-E-R-O. I'm an attorney, 1070 Main Street in Coventry. There were restrictive covenants put on this premises back in the 80s. Unfortunately, they have expired by law.
Did they permit sheds on the property?
I looked at the expiration, I didn't go any further to it.
Do you know how long the shed's been there?
I heard, but I can't
No,
guarantee.
I'm asking.
No, I'm sorry.
Sorry.
If you would wait a minute, I'm going to have my client who's lived there during the construction of the shed, he can add some light to that.
So Ms. Pine, you don't know when it was built, I mean, you came in
I
after
do not.
for the purchase, so I mean, everything that you're aware of happened from the time you purchased it forward. Okay, so we'll get some insight on that from Mr. Bernero. So maybe Ronnie's gonna ask us, where exactly on the overview on Exhibit 8, where exactly is the shed? We're assuming that it's near this white area?
It's exactly where it is.
That white area is the
Well,
shed?
That's, I think that's,
Or is it behind you?
is that a vehicle?
It's like a truck. Anyways,
So it would be in that spot,
in that spot?
yes.
How old is this picture? Do we know?
Yes, that's an aerial which was, that's a Google aerial taken in May of 2015.
Okay, well, that's why I asked. That doesn't look
You
like
can't
that.
see it.
That,
I have a Google aerial of 2018, and I can't see it on that either.
good information too.
Yeah.
Okay, because I can't make it out, because you can see a truck closest to the garage between that white thing, which maybe is a camper, but that does not look like a shed roof.
No, I mean, you can't even see all of it because there's tree cover there. I can't see it on the 2018 aerial, which I have on my.
So it could be like,
I think it's under here where
Yeah.
the tree canopies covering the whole thing.
so I'm just, we don't really know from the aerial then if it was there before 15 or not.
You can't tell,
Right.
no. Even from the 2018 aerial was taken in February, and you still can't see it.
Can I see it?
I'll show it to you on here.
Sure.
No, I don't have it on here. I have it on my computer at my office, I don't have it on here. I just have the Yeah, this is a May 2015 email.
Okay, so with the info that we have tonight, we don't know specifically where the shed is on this area photo. We know we have a site plan, so we know on the site plan
Right.
that, that was produced in December of 18. So we know exactly where it is on the site plan. I think just, we're gonna make the assumption that it's under that tree canopy. You know, it doesn't really matter. I mean, it predates her buying it.
What color is the roof?
Black.
Can I see that?
Which one?
The 15.
That's it?
Yeah, I really see it like that.
Oh, sure.
Yeah, forgive me if I didn't understand the question. You do have electrical power, plumbing, anything to this, or it's just a?
No, there's no power to it.
Okay.
So the shed's 22.5 feet by 7.5 feet wide? No. Barn has
There were actually three structures. There was the original, what I thought was the original shed, what we're taxed on, I'm going by my taxes, shed, and then a workshop behind that, and then the lean-to. So we were taxed on each separate, but they were all attached.
How big is what remains, what we see in this photo? Do you know approximately?
Can I ask anything?
I guess, but,
It's gonna be 16 by 30, I would think.
oh wow.
That's a big shed.
Maybe 24, something like that.
I believe that's it. It's on the right angle to the driveway. So,
You think that
why
was
even
reflection?
wait reflection? It could have been the time of day.
Okay, maybe that's, yeah.
Do you see what I'm saying? You got the fence there, the 8 feet that,
That you got the truck at.
yeah, right here,
Yeah.
looking at this, there's the fence. You do it. Unless somebody tells me it wasn't built then.
It doesn't show up in the 2018, this white thing doesn't show up in the 2018 area.
They had a camper park there when we looked at the property, in that spot where my pickup is.
Was there two campers there?
No.
Because how do we explain that?
Yeah, that's a big.
Just not, I could be dead wrong.
So, I mean, it's fine. I don't think it helps us. when
It
we-
doesn't help us right now anyways.
So let's just.
Just curious.
Whatever that is. Any other questions? I think we're good.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
I actually got one.
All right, Ronnie's got one. We're gonna wait.
That's it, you can say right there. The fence that goes along where the truck is parked in this picture, is the fence farther away from the building at one end of the building than the other?
No,
It stays that consistent 8 feet off the building?
It's parallel to the
yes,
side
it
of
is.
the building.
Okay.
I agree with these things sometimes, but they're not always,
Certainly.
No, it just gives you an idea.
It doesn't.
I mean, I look
Shed.
But at least you can see neighbors have sheds.
Yeah, I introduced that for a different purpose. I couldn't see it.
No, talk to you, thank you.
I need glasses on.
I don't want to jump up. Okay.
You're all set, so
Okay, I gave my name, John Romero Jr. I'm an attorney at the law offices at 1070 Main Street in Coventry, and I represent the neighbors, James and Deborah Dialmo. As you were aware, we're calling this a shed, and I think it's a big barn, but again, I'll leave that to your discretion. My clients obviously object to this, and I'd like to have Mr. Dialmo talk to you and give you some photos of what his concerns are as the next door neighbor. If you could swear him in, I'd appreciate it.
slide these over the wall.
Would you raise your right hand, sir? Do you solemnly swear the testimony you should give be the truth, the whole truth, nothing but the truth, so help you God?
So I swear to God.
Can you please state your name and spell your last name for the record?
James Dialmo, D-E, capital A-L-M-O.
Thank you.
Mr. Diallo, would you go through each photo and describe what you're introducing to the board, if you could, and show them to Mr. Picasso at the same time so we know what we're talking about?
Is it okay if I stand up here?
Sure, just stand up. I don't,
Okay,
Kelly, I apologize, I don't have a copy, I'm not as good as you come prepared to give all the copies out, but stand with me, please.
No problem.
Okay, I had taken some photos. The first one is coming down our street, walking down our street actually, and towards the Pontes, just from down the street. So the first picture is that, and it shows a truck and a RV, they call it. It's a mobile home, pretty basically. The next picture is just further down the street. Should I give
Yep.
someone a little one?
Okay. We march this one.
You can mark it now.
The house in the back in this first picture is my house, the gray house in the back. The next picture I took was from our front yard, and it is a picture of the truck and trailer that are parked. My guess is 15 yards from my front porch, tops 15 yards, could be 10. I didn't measure it out. The next picture is a picture of my view of the barn that we're speaking of from my backyard, which is also tight because of where it's built. And that was from my deck. This one again is a picture of this shed. Now it was taken before this lean-to was off of it, but it's the same dimensions that we're speaking of. Go ahead.
When did you take this one? I missed it if you said it, I'm sorry.
Boy, maybe 2 weeks ago.
Okay, so recent.
Okay. And like this one, with the lean-to on it is probably a little older than that. I'm not quite sure when I took all this. Well, there's leaves on the trees, so it was before that. And then there's a picture of the view of the shed itself and a trailer of some sort that's parked next to it.
If you could you explain the history of the barn, shed, whatever we're going to call it, and your relationship, and how long you've been at the site?
Sure. My wife and I actually bought the first lot from Don Gordon and Dean Saglio in the development known as Country Lands in July of 1987. We spent $50,000 for that lot because it was underground utilities. It had also plat restrictions. They called for certain things not to happen. And one of them was mobile homes on the property, dead cars, non-registered cars, poultry, livestock, so forth. You know, there was a myriad. I have a copy of it if you're interested in it. But
that's the one that we stated.
it has expired. It sunsetted in 2012, which of course I guess we could have chickens now and livestock. But anyway. Peter Dodger, we know him as Jake, so I'm going to call him Jake, and if it's all right with Mr. Ponte, I'm going to call him Sam instead of Thurston. I know him as Sam. Is that all right, Sam?
No.
Okay.
Yeah, that's fine.
I'll call him as Thurston then. Anyway, so Jake moved in probably, I'm guessing maybe 2008 or 9, maybe 2009. And, you know, he's an insurance guy, nice guy, all that, you know, whatever, we're a good neighbor, you know, but 2011-ish, probably. And I think this document somewhere, this is the application, I think it talks about the shed as being 2011. There's actually a date on it. I'd have to go through and find it, but it was listed as built in 2011. I think it's probably this one with the picture on it. You know, did you have the application?
Yeah.
Okay. And but anyway, so let's say it was 2011. He started in 2011.
built the main piece that Mrs. Ponte was alluding to, and then put a piece on the back of that afterwards. And then the year after that, put in this lean-to, as it's called. Now, we disliked it. We, if the question is that we didn't raise an objection at the time. And the reason we didn't raise an objection at the time is until we had a survey done of our property, we had no idea that there were buffer zones in this neighborhood, or really what a buffer zone was. My wife and I moved here from Warwick. Our house, the next house to ours was 15 feet away. I mean, buffer zones just didn't exist. I mean, I have no idea what they are. I thought what they were was like the DMZ between North and South Korea. You know?
It was easy to get sugar from your neighbor back then.
Yeah, it really was. Yeah, we could run a line, do clothes and all those.
One quick question. Is that trailer was there how long ago? And it's not there now?
No, it's dead.
I don't know,
It's a gray, like a cow home trailer?
oh, that's not a motorcycle trailer.
So that's the story behind that, is that we didn't object because we thought, we really weren't sure where the property line was. There were no surveys done in our neighborhood, maybe at the start of things, but we just really didn't know. The property line kind of thought might have been where the power boxes are. So that would probably maybe that, might not be. But the properties ran at angles anyway, so we really weren't sure how that went. So, we, like I said, we didn't like what Jake did, but we didn't know we could complain about it, so we didn't. And we object to it now, but I mean, it's, we're here, and the Pontes have explained that it's something that's going to cost them money to move. I quite didn't get a number on that, or what it would cost to move it actually, or whether or not it could be moved the 13 feet. I heard something about a fence. I don't have any aerial photographs, so I just I can't get my mind around it as to whether this thing would be monumental to move or not. And, it's 30 years here, and I just, never had this kind of issue with anyone, and I just, it's hard for me to understand. I mean, there's nothing in this documentation that talks about this application that we actually had the Pontes over to try to resolve this, and made them an offer. And an offer was for them to relocate a large travel trailer, a mobile home, RV, whatever they want to call it, and move it somewhere else. Because, out my front porch, out the windows, out the back deck, and out the backyard is all I see is a barn, an RV, and a truck that pulls it. And it's, we asked them if they would do that. They said they would not. And we held no further discussions. They said we were going to hire a lawyer, and that was going to be the end of that.
So, if I'm understanding what you're telling us, that if the camper was moved as in one of these pictures, you could live with the shed being a foot to your property line?
We will. I mean, it's like, we understand that it's like we have, everybody has a lot of blame to go around here. I mean, Peter Josh isn't here. He's probably the one who really needs to be slapped upside the head, but he's not here. So I'm in South Kingston enjoying his new home. But yes, I mean, it's Anchor Storage on Main Street across from the ball field. They have those things. They store them there. The website said it's $75 a month, which I get it, is $75 a month. I mean, it's not, it's money, but it's certainly be probably a lot less than trying to tear or move the barn. And these things are not only it's upsetting to us as far as having to look at them all the time, but I mean, sooner or later I'm going to want to sell this house, and people are going to come and they're going to say, I'm going to buy this house with all this crap 10 yards away from your bedroom window. Or living room window, I should say. We'll get to look at it out of our bedroom window as well. And I just didn't think it was that unreasonable a request. In order to, it's like there was a lot of language about inconvenience, and that's what they told us when we had them over. They said it was They didn't complain about the cost of it. They said it would be inconvenient to load and unload if it was at a storage facility. And I don't think anybody would be saying you couldn't bring it back home. It's 4 minutes away from the storage. You go get it, bring it back, load it up.
I do see another compromise, and I don't know
Go
if
ahead.
either one of you would be interested in it, but if that camper was placed where the truck is beside the barn, it would also hide it from your view.
And
Try
you know,
that.
and that would
So try-
that would be acceptable, I suppose. I mean, you know, except that then he's going to take the truck and that trailer that's behind it and put that in the buffer zone. I mean, it's like something's got to go. I mean, you know, he's got a business to run. I mean, it's like he's got vehicles to do it, and I mean, you can't have everything. There just isn't enough room on an acre of land. I mean, it sounds like a lot, you know, so to speak, but I mean, it's just when it's, when somebody's putting that much stuff that close to your house, it really isn't far away.
How about a couple-minute recess, Kelly, for you and them to
Actually,
chat?
we've already talked about this, and what my clients have told me differs a little bit from what Mr. Dion has said.
I'm under oath.
Yeah, I understand that, so will she when he
Okay.
gets up here too. I discussed with them moving the camper on the other side where the truck is in that photograph. They can't do it because it won't fit.
Even with moving the fence?
The problem is if you move the fence, you're also, the pavement doesn't extend over there. It simply won't fit there. They've also proposed...
Fixing the pavement and adding a little bit of pavement, Kelly, versus taking a shed and moving it, seems to me would be a hell of a lot cheaper.
Okay, and that's a possibility.
Or us ruling to tear it down.
And you can rule to tear it down, and then, they can move it back into where the fence is, and guess what's going to be parked right where that shed used to be? Because that's not governed by zoning. So, they also proposed putting up arborvitae to screen. The Diamos didn't want that because they said, they're not going to grow enough by the time that they sell their property, which they told my clients they're thinking about selling.
We can continue on with the whole thing.
Yeah, we
I was
could.
just looking for an
No, I
easier way out.
understand. No, I understand that. I spoke with my clients about it. I spoke with Mr. Bernero about it. We're up to Mr. Bernero and I. It will probably be resolved. But unfortunately, we've got two people here who really don't like each other all that much.
And
So
I
problem.
would disagree with counsel. I don't have any problem with Sam or Sherry's personally. We do not. And I mean, it bothers me a great deal that this is going to be an adversarial situation. It doesn't keep you back.
So,
If we could have, this is Mrs. Diamo, psychiatrist sworn in?
I'll be quick.
Okay.
Mr. Bernard, before you go, and we shift gears, you don't see any compromise in this? You see this?
At this particular juncture, unfortunately, no. I am the first one to compromise on zoning and planning. I used to have my old friend, the planning commission, used to say, Mr. Bernero, one hand washes the other. Let's make a deal here and get it resolved. Unfortunately, we've come to an impasse. Kelly and I have both spoken on this. My partner, Tom, has spoken to Kelly the past week or so, and we've tried to resolve this before we've come before you.
And then there's no shot of you guys getting together?
Well, I'm just feeling I'm being strong-armed by moving my camper.
Not by us.
No,
No, no.
by them.
I'm just trying to get
But that's my
compromise so
feeling.
that
I'm
we
feeling
don't...
upset about that. I paid some decent money for this house. I keep a clean place. It's not whatever you use, crap hole or whatever. It's not that. I've got a camper that's 35 feet that parks there. I could keep it in my driveway.
Just
I
as a
think it's safe to say that we just need to move on.
Yeah.
Okay.
Just trying to help.
I don't
It's
know.
okay, we'll just
Thank
move on.
Thank you.
So Debbie Allen, do you solemnly swear the testimony you should give will be the truth, the whole truth, nothing but the truth, so help you God? Please state your name.
Deborah Diallo, 21 Keith Drive. I just have a quick statement that I want to make. We really don't want to hurt you, Sam. I know you think we do, but we don't. We love our home and our beautiful neighborhood, and we've been there over 28 years. Between the 22-foot barn, which is a shed, and then I think he stores his work equipment to run his business, like inside, deeper into that barn. So 22-foot barn, then a 40-foot maybe mobile home, then the pickup truck that pulls it, you know, and it's parked in the buffer zone, it really took away that beautiful view that we had, and if you've been in country lands, I think you'd understand. You know, I feel like we really haven't caused this, and we didn't do anything wrong. We're just looking out for ourselves because we do plan to move someday, and we love the neighborhood, and we love, you know, anyway, I don't feel like we did anything wrong. We think, and we always thought that it was a reasonable request to ask them to move that mobile home out of the neighborhood, store it off-site, and, you know, the places right in town that we talked about, and in return, we wouldn't object to him keeping the shed or the barn. Because we know he has to make a living, and he's doing it out of his home, we know that. But we don't want to have to look at that and try to sell our house and not be able to we're both retired, we need to get everything we can out of that house. So we're not trying to hurt you, we're just trying to help ourselves. Thank you.
If I could, I just want to sum up and give you my legal opinion as to what is before you this evening. I've done a lot of zoning over 42 years, and going back way before my time, there's a case called Vitti versus the City of Providence. You're probably aware of it. I don't have the site, but it's called the Vitti Doctrine. It's been utilized so many times. And it's regarding dimensional variances. That's what's before you this evening. And what Vitti says in a nutshell is that it has to be the least relief necessary. And it also has to be more than a mere inconvenience. Now, would this be more than a mere inconvenience? Yes. But is it the least relief necessary? Let's go back with the former owner. If the former owner was standing here before he built the shed after being denied a permit by the building inspector, you'd be saying to him, why can't you put this in another place? Why do you need a 90% variance going from 15 feet to 1.9 feet? Isn't there another area? And I know the petitioner testified that there was no other area, but I'm going to call your attention to the survey which they made a exhibit. There's 2 other sheds on the property. I'm assuming that 2 shed areas could be utilized for the moving of this shed. The culprit on here is the former owner. There's no question. He fraudulently gave them a disclosure statement. That is for the Superior Court. There's a suit by the parties against former owner for damages. That's where this should be, not before this board tonight. The case law is clear. I don't know if you're aware of it, but there was a case in Narragansett. A gentleman by the name of Bob Lamoureux. I did work for Bob. Thank God I didn't represent him on this disaster. Built a $2 million home. His surveyor put the property on the wrong area. $2 million sat there for like 8 years. And went up to the Supreme Court. The Supreme Court told him, move it. $600,000. Move it. You have no right. And it's really funny, I didn't read the case before today, but the case cites a case called Santilli versus Morelli, 109 Rhode Island, 333. It's bringing tears to my eyes, I apologize, but my late father argued that case before the Supreme Court, and he lost. The judge said, move, you have to move it, you can't leave it there, it's an encroachment, okay? And that's what it says. The defendant, they have clean hands, no question about it. But these people have just as much clean hands. They have no right to go in and do the due diligence. You know, in Rhode Island, surveys are not required. We do titles all the time with no surveys. But they should be required on each and every sale so that this does not happen. And again, the encroachment was there in good faith. Maybe it was, maybe it wasn't. But the reality is, my client should not have to have an encroachment when there is ample area to the rear. Get rid of some of the trucks. You don't need all these trucks. Sure, there's nothing left because they've utilized it with vehicles, another trailer for motorcycles. There's a place for this. There's a good compromise. I agree with that compromise. I think that's an excellent suggestion on it. But unfortunately, we could not come to a neighbor-to-neighbor And unfortunately, this is probably going to be the Hatfields and McCoys. But the law is clear. This is not more than a mere inconvenience. It's not the least relief necessary. It's a total 90% variance request, which should be respectfully denied.
Mr. Brunel,
Yes.
the Narragansett case, I mean, can be differentiated because they built that structure was built on the abutting property.
No question about
In a
it.
setback.
No question
It
about
was
it.
situated on conservancy land.
No question. But
They
again,
didn't
when you encroach on someone's property, there is no relief, okay? At least there was a permit. The former owner received no permit from your town. He went willy-nilly to put this shed up. That's in violation of any of your building codes.
Do you feel that if they had built that house within the setback but situated on that lot, then they would have had the same outcome?
If they were in 1.9, yes. You're violating my right as a neighbor to have my set-off. I do.
Even though it took you 8 years to figure it out.
Took them 8 years to figure it out, yeah?
But I think we're speculating because we don't know how that outcome happened because that wasn't the situation, we're changing the details. I mean, on that case that Dan was talking about, Dan put a hypothetical. Because we're looking at a setback now. We're not, we're encroaching on a setback, we're not encroaching on a property line anymore. They removed the lean-to, which was over the property line. That's
Right.
a really big issue.
But
Now we have a setback issue, okay? So, to me, from what I'm hearing, it's more the amount of stuff he has on the property than it necessarily is the shed, because we've come to an agreement on the shed. But I want to ask our zoning official, is any of the other stuff that he has on the property, his mobile home, is that a violation?
One's
While
allowed,
you figure that out,
two
you
arguably.
said you had
Are there
a
two?
survey done.
No, so, I mean, there's one RV on the property, no? Or is there two?
well, you got one trailer on the property for the motorcycles, plus you got the mobile home, so you have two.
Which is that?
No, let's, I mean, come on, let's not mix things up like
Two
that.
is not allowed.
All right, so if I quote our zoning ordinance on page, where are we, section 29, page 1767, on, so section, actually, it's section 28B, parking or storage of trucks, heavy construction equipment, travel trailers, tent trailers, or motorized campers in a residential zone. Not more than one travel trailer, pickup camper, tent trailer, or motorized camp trailer may be stored by a person on his or her own property in a residential zone. Then it goes on to state stuff about trailer trucks, which aren't in play here. So I mean, that's a different thing that we're here for tonight. He's got two trailers on the property.
Yeah, but he doesn't have two camper trailers.
It doesn't have to be two camper trailers. It's trailers, period. Parking or storage of trucks, heavy construction equipment, travel trailers, tent trailers, or motorized campers in a residential
Travel
zone.
trailer, tent trailer.
Not more than one travel trailer, pickup camper, tent trailer, or motorized camp trailer.
All of them are campers.
They're all campers.
They're all campers. Every single one of them are campers. Not motorcycle trailers. No, travel trailer is a camper.
All right, so you're saying the motorcycle trailers doesn't apply,
Doesn't apply.
by definition? Is
I don't
that
know
the way
what
you look at it?
No, travel trailer
Is it,
has always been a camper, a type of camper. So is a pickup camper, so is a motorhome, so is a fifth wheel trailer.
The tent trailer.
I mean,
And a tent trailer.
I would almost, I think I would agree with you on that. I mean, this definition here is more to a living type
Exactly.
trailer, not a,
That's what that ordinance was
not
geared
a
for.
motorcycle trailer.
That's what that ordinance was geared for.
Do you guys want to look at it? I'd watch it.
Do you have a copy of the survey you had done? Yeah, you can take
It matches.
They match.
You comfortable? I
Yes,
just wanted
no.
to see it.
We can stipulate that they match.
Okay. Yeah, can, make a motion, 5-minute recess.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Reconvene, guys, motion to
moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. So we had a little discussion during our recess. Attorney Picasso and Attorney Bernero are going to speak.
Yes, we have agreed to table this matter, continue it to March 21st, keep the hearing open, and Mr. Bernero and I are going to talk in the interim, and, well, maybe Mr. Crum.
Mr. Cronin, Mr. Bernero was too old to do this anymore.
And we're going to see if we can try to resolve it.
Okay, can I entertain a motion to table this till the March 21st meeting?
So moved.
Second.
With the hearing staying open.
This hearing staying on. All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Sorry. We'll see you guys next month.
Thanks a lot.
Thank you, Bill.
You guys can work on the notes. Thank you, guys. and filed in accordance with section 8C and 10 of chapter 134 of the zoning ordinance of the town of Hopkinton as amended. Applicant or representative present.
Mr. Chairman, members of the board, Attorney George Camoli with offices at 15 Franklin Street. I want to thank you for allowing us to come before you tonight on this rather protracted application. The limited reason we're before you tonight is a special use permit. At your January meeting, you denied our variances to allow for a shed on the easterly boundary line and westerly boundary line to retain a greenhouse, which I call circa 2015, and put storage bins on the easterly boundary line where it intersects with property of Mr. and Mrs. Lisi. We're returning tonight with a plan requesting a special use permit. We are proposing the elimination of the 2015 greenhouse as shown on the plan. We're proposing the elimination of the shed where Mr. Sherman testified that he stored pots. And we're proposing the western shed to be moved within the building envelope, and the storage bins, which were previously on the boundary line, to move back within the building envelope itself. We believe that as a garden center, we could always keep our aggregate and put it in piles, but by having some storage bins, it'd be more orderly and attractive. The other concern we had was drainage. We have done an engineered plan. It hasn't been stamped yet, but you can still clearly see in all the elevations that we put a berm in, we put a swale, and all the water is running towards the bottom corner of the property where the culvert is. We don't have the legal authority to go up Mr. Majewski's property. All we can do is bring the water to where we believe it will drain into that culvert. I was hopeful Mr. Majewski would be here so we'd get his assent to do that. He is not. So what we'll have is that plan stamped showing the core water clearly flowing away from Mr. Majewski's property, which the court order requires, a berm where Mr. Majewski's property is, which will be landscaped, a drainage swale which prevents water from going in that direction, and everything going in a southerly, well, southeast, southwesterly direction. Likewise, in the back, we're proposing no further garage, which was originally approved there. It's going to be green space in a grow area. I'm hopeful this board acknowledges our efforts to try to comply and comport with the ordinance. As a special use application, I believe we've met all of the requirements of section 10D, 1 through 5. I'd be glad to respond to any questions.
All right, so just for clarification, so the shed on the, oh boy.
I can show you the old plan, which will help.
So the one located on the right side of the property we're facing, so what would that be, the southeast? On the Lisa's side of the lot, that small one that was out front, that's now been removed.
That is removed entirely.
Is it now?
Yes, it's going to be removed in its entirety.
Not on the property anymore?
Not on the property anymore.
It's still on the property.
It is to be removed.
It is. Okay, well, we'll question it.
Okay.
Okay, but so that one is going to go away.
Yes.
Then the one that is being moved to the rear near the last greenhouse, that was the one that was on the western side,
Yes.
correct? The large greenhouse that was on the Lisa side that was over the setback, and that's going to be removed as well
Yes.
entirely, or is it going to be used?
To be removed.
Okay. So all we're looking at on this site plan is that small shed that was on the 8.5 by 12.5 that was on the western side, and then proposing the mulch bins in that same area.
The mulch bins will be moved in within the building envelope towards the rear of the property and removed from the easterly boundary line as it intersects with the leases as originally proposed.
And those are the only two special use permits you're seeking tonight?
Those are the only expansions of the pre-existing nonconformity that we're seeking tonight.
So, before we get on to those two, just for clarification on the consent agreement, I know last month I was hung up on having an engineered set of plans on that swale and drainage ditch?
If you look at the plan before you tonight, you have the engineering topographic detail. We cannot comply with the letter of that because the order suggests we have to go to the culvert on Mr. Majewski's property. Without Mr. Majewski's cooperation, all we can do is bring the water to the location where the culvert is located. And it's clearly shown on that plan.
In your opinion, that's the way the water's always flowing, that's why you've got these arrows on here, kind of.
Where it always goes in the swale and the berm confirm. The major goal of the consent order is to make sure water didn't go towards his house. And now we're showing not only is it not going towards his house, it's draining away down to the culvert, which goes under his driveway into the wetland.
And you stated, Jonathan, that they've got stamped engineered calculations that are forthcoming.
Correct.
Yes, most definitely.
All right, so Mr. Mazinski won't meet with you, or he doesn't have an engineer that wants to speak with Mr.
He
Sherman?
necessarily doesn't need one. The water is going to where it always has, and his concern was to keep the water away from his house, which we clearly have.
Seems to me they've done a good job bringing everything invoice, that basically what we're asking to do. And special use expansion is 8.5 by 12.5 shed, and the mulch bins, which have been approved by prior application.
But we're also removing other stuff.
Right.
Kind of balance.
No, everything that they've done, right, they brought everything in order.
Right.
Do any of you have any questions for Attorney Camoli or for Mr. Sherman regarding the shed or the mulch bins, the use of the mulch bins?
I think we discussed that, that we need to put on the record.
Oh, well.
It was for mulch and bark mulch, and
It's usually mulch and loam, which just goes along with the
no
fence.
asphalt, right, we talked about?
We're prohibited by court order to allow any other aggregate in there.
Do you guys want to have, well, maybe we're not at that point yet, but it's, so, last month, did we get into what type of vehicles? I believe we did, small mason dump.
The vehicles there is, I would call it a small Kubota, and it's about the only thing that's back there, and there is a small dump truck on occasion.
Just
tractor George?
Yeah.
Yeah, just to clarify better, I'm more concerned with the mulch operation, so that's what I'm getting at, is the type of equipment and type of vehicles that will be taking the mulch on and off the property. So if customers were to come in, sorry, maybe, so let's sway you anyway.
For the record, say your name.
Ted Sherman, Ted C. Sherman,
Can you raise your right hand?
yeah,
You solemnly swear the testimony you should give will be the truth, the whole truth, nothing but the truth, so help you God.
I do.
Thank you.
Okay, so just to restate my question, so if we're looking at your site plan, if people are gonna, drive into the property to get mulch, if you're gonna have, or explain how the activity is gonna go
Pretty
down.
much where it is, they're just gonna come, park, load them, pick up, masonry dump, and off they go.
A little more detail, so they're gonna enter off of the south entrance
Yeah.
on Mr. Mazinski's side,
Yeah. Yep.
correct? They're going to, they're then gonna proceed up the, so that would be the westerly
Yep.
property bound,
Yeah.
and then
Take a
they're
right and
they're gonna take a right, and then they'll be at the midpoint of the property,
right, and then that's where they'll probably load them.
and then they're gonna be loaded with a small
Right.
Kubota or Bobcat.
Nothing over like 9,000 pounds if that.
I mean, that's part of the consent order as well, the size of the vehicle, or the style and type of it. And then you're also testifying that it's gonna be a small mason dump, like a 1 ton.
Yeah, but coming in out, I would imagine, yeah.
We're not gonna have another 10-wheeler in
You
there.
know what I mean?
No.
I don't own a 10
So, or big and larger dump trucks.
I don't believe the 10-wheeler could fit in there, Mr. Chairman.
So, but we're not gonna have large commercial vehicles, I mean, what are we looking at for a GVW or something?
Your deliveries. Yeah, that's where I was going next.
Yeah.
The only thing that could be is a delivery, they can't bring them in pickups, unload them shovels, they gotta bring a bigger truck and bring it in and dump it. I mean, you know what I mean?
When you're receiving them all.
Yeah, yes. And how long is it there for? Not even 10 minutes?
Okay. But,
Yeah, that would be not considered a delivery anyway.
Yeah.
It's not
Like
anything to do with him.
Right. Are you gonna be delivering off of it? off of these bins with your?
To people,
Yeah,
yeah,
outside
probably,
customers?
yeah.
What would the vehicle you use?
Same thing, my heaviest truck is 32,000 pounds.
Is that, I don't remember the consent.
It's like a 7-yard dump truck.
Small dump truck.
Yeah, they're not that big.
Fine.
6-wheeler. I got a question. How do you stop if somebody does show up and they have a 10-wheeler and they want mulch? Do you deny them?
I think it more pertains to what you own, not,
Oh, okay.
No, well, I mean, if we're granting a special use permit, we need to know what type of vehicles. Because if he's expanding this use now, this mulch sale did not take place. So that's why he's seeking a special use permit. It's not a given right for him to be able to bring in large trucks just because he's selling mulch. He has to apply for the special use permit, so he needs to testify how the operation's gonna go down, so that we can get clarification for ourselves and also for the neighbors as to how intense this new activity on this garden center is gonna be.
well, it's not like this.
Yeah, it's double X. Yeah.
The place always sold mulch, it just never sold its bulk. So you're a little inaccurate on that.
You can still sell multi-wheel like the bins.
Right. Mulch has always been sold there, not in bulk form.
No, it's the intent of the applicant, if you buy trees, you can pick up mulch. But if a landscaper comes in there with a small, when I asked him that, it's a single axle, small dump truck. They come in, he can fill it up with a yard, so they can do their landscaping. It's not intended to be a commercial use or compete with any, like Thompson's lumber or anything. We buy it from Thompson's.
But, so that's another question that I mean, the size of those, the proposed bins, I mean, if you had a larger dump truck, you know, like a 10-wheeler or something like that, if it would fit back there, there's not enough mulch in the bin to fill the truck, right?
Not big enough, those bins are very small, the dimensions are on there.
Okay, I mean, I'm trying to put all this on the record, so I'm gonna ask some questions that seem silly anyway, but nobody knows this unless we say it. So I mean, that's the flip side of this, is the bins are smaller than somebody who uses a large volume. Even Mr. Sherman, I don't think only a large truck can take, I would assume you go down to Thompson, you probably, that unloaded truck would be more convenient with a larger truck.
Yeah.
And you've operated this business now for the last 4 or 5 years, correct? And you sold mulch the last 4 or 5 years?
Oh, yeah.
So really, the only thing we're really looking at now is having it organized in a bin versus having it in piles, I assume.
In the pile, and I mean, the structure of the bins is within the setback limit. I mean, do we have any say as to, like, if any overflow goes over the setback limit?
Consider the height of the mulch pile, too. And, yeah, I think you can add conditions, so that you make sure it's a small scale as specified.
You know, as was mentioned too, is the height of the mulch bins. I mean, yeah, that's a concern. When Dan was asking about the size of the vehicles, that's in there.
Really become an issue.
Yeah, I don't know, so I would think that the board should consider what the height limit on the pile. I mean, it sounds silly, but I mean, if you decide to heat that thing up a mile high,
I see it really become an issue on this house.
I say he's gonna stay at 50 feet. Sorry, I couldn't help that.
The answer to your question, I asked, the height of the wall of the mulch bin is 4 feet. When you load it, it may be another foot or 2 feet higher, the load itself. And for reference, the piles at Westerly Quarry are 40 feet high.
So you're saying 6 feet, Mr. Cole?
4 feet the walls, and with a pile on top, an additional 2 feet.
6 altogether?
Yeah.
so you think it would be approximately 6 foot tall.
What's your normal delivery? How many yards?
Well, on the other bins, they used to take 100.
Yeah, but what do you, these are obviously too
They're
small.
probably gonna be 25.
25 is what I'm right, so I'm not.
Yardage not big, not a lot.
25 yards.
total or each bin?
each bin, right?
I think it's
So if you,
20 feet, that's 20.
even if he piled 25 yards up within that bin, he probably wouldn't be much higher. The most would probably be 8 feet, give or take.
So to keep it in perspective, how many yards would you put on a mason now?
You could put 3 or 4,
So, all right.
so you're not talking a large pile.
Item 5 here of that order was that the defendants are permanently restrained and enjoined bringing onto premises any materials, rocks, debris, or other products for processing, stockpiling, or for any other commercial purpose or use other than what mulch intended for residential purposes as may be specified and allowed by the zoning board of review without prejudice and in its discretion. So, it seems like it's,
That's why we're here.
right, but the point being that the mulch piles, he could have them out the back. Now he's got it organized. It's not to say he's still not having them back. I don't know what his intent is, but,
Well, that's a good question. Are you going to have any other open mulch piles in that alleyway down the back?
I don't plan on it.
I think that's what would kind of create the firestorm, you know,
No,
going
right.
forward.
So,
Overflow and.
so that's within our discretion as to if we're gonna allow some of this, we need to be very specific. And if we're gonna limit piles down that alleyway in the back, if we're gonna limit encroachment on the setbacks, we can do that. Do we have to or not? That's up to us. I mean, that's something we don't have to agree on and disagree on. But I would be very specific with this because of how long we've been doing this. We need to, we gotta dot our i's and cross our t's. That's if we go in favor.
And a crazy question, they've got the landscape buffer growing area, which was kind of one of the conditions of the consent. That's limited to the actual, the zoning setback, or is that the whole area in the back?
The whole area we designate as green space growing.
And that could be Christmas trees, could be nursery stock, could be pumpkins,
Yep. It's gotta be growing, it's gotta be green space, it can't be anything but.
so it's probably really not intent to pile a mulch back there. And how far does that extend from that back property line to the grow area? It's just got an arrow kind of going into the middle of
I
that.
haven't put, too much on.
So I don't think that,
Yeah, well, I think that might also help, especially the neighbors to the west there, to kind of prohibit, or make it so it's prohibited the mulch to be piled back there, the grow space. You have to pile mulch, we got things growing.
so in that back area, I mean, because again, this falls under our purview, is how far off of that back?
He's still
Do
doing
we want activity? I mean, because he still should be able to use his land.
no, to grow things, but I think he's got 315 feet from the northern boundary line to the job, the little out. I mean, how far, and the berms that are proposed look like they're taking up a good third or 2/3 or even half of that total distance, kind of centered to divert the water around. We can't put mulch piles up to the front or in this den area.
Right, and keep his growing in the area, I mean, in the rear.
It was pretty muddy back there anyway, I'm sure it's only dry back to this time of year.
I think we should be specific as to how large that growing area is.
I think, right, what's the intent? Is it be coming back 300 feet or 200 feet or?
What is the growing area?
You can treat shrubs, arborvitae's, Christmas trees, like he's saying. Whatever, you know what I mean? You can grow from this to, full-size tree.
So,
Well, it's a vegetated state line, it's a nursery, so by definition, is it natural vegetation or is it planted vegetation that he's?
well, that's what I was thinking that it was intended to grow back. You intend on using it to grow stuff. So I'm not seeing what that issue would be.
Well, no, I think, but if he said, went back 200 feet or 250 feet with vegetation, then at least mulch piles aren't gonna end up out there, which it seems like he would probably have the right to have them out there, but that's one of the conditions the board would run, you know?
So,
Well, why don't we ask, he already testified 2 minutes ago that he didn't want mulch piles back there, or waste wasn't going on. So if we limit the mulch piles to the box, he said he gets 25-yard deliveries. Give him another 10 yards that he doesn't want to go empty to get another load. Mandate that they can't be more than 35 yards per bunker. Then you can't, then you don't have, you can't have a huge pile because it's only 35 yards.
All right, so that's, you're on the mulch, right? On how much
He
mulch?
In the bunkers, though.
Right. So,
That's what he testified to. And did I understand that correctly?
You might know what 35 yards is, I don't. I'd rather say, hey, Mr. Bowen said it's 6 foot high, then it's 6 foot high. You know, that's what the height's gonna be, and you put it in there. Otherwise, who help them quantify the yard?
nobody's gonna scoop it to fit the yard.
So how big are the bunkers?
They're labeled.
You count the
The
blocks.
length and width.
They're 24 feet by 20 feet, count the blocks, based on size.
Does that sound right?
Each bin,
24 feet by what?
by 20 feet, each bin, just counting the blocks. With the 4 foot wide.
So 24 by 20
Perfect.
times 6. Yeah, I mean, everybody needs to know what we're talking about.
24 by 20.
24
By
by
20 by
20
6.
by 6 high. That can hold 100 yards.
Seems fair, right?
So that's more than way more than I was talking about. Is that an accurate measurement of what they're gonna be, 20 by 24 apiece?
Yeah, if not similar to what you guys approved before.
No, it can't be similar.
No.
When we decide tonight, that's what it's gotta be.
All right.
So,
We need the
Do we
exact
have a
dimensions of those bins,
well, if we got a scale, do we have a scale anymore?
because when we make this decision, if we're
We
going
never
to
seen a
allow,
triangle and measure, take
if
the.
we're gonna allow bins, I want on the record the exact size of those bins. Right now, it's vague because we're counting blocks, and we're making assumptions on the blocks.
Yeah. If you have a regular rule in your office,
I know, but there still should be measurements on it. There's no reason not to have the exact dimensions on it, because that's vague enough where somebody can jot you around there.
we got a plan to scale. If she finds a scale, I'll tell you what it is on the print. And they got a whole tooth print. Huh?
I gotta take measure of the truck.
Yeah, we might have to go that way, but she thinks she can find a scale, which is a lot more accurate.
Yeah, scale on the dashboard.
You might have to get it. Actually, I got one in my truck too, I'll just say that. We used to have one.
I gotta see how that's back from.
Actually, go ahead and take it. I got one more big tool I gotta use.
Then we can work the mulch pots there.
So while they're looking for that scale, can we go back to the consent order on the vegetative buffer? Part-timer. All right, so on the consent order that was handed to us by Superior Court, item 8 says within 90 days of this order, such other time to be determined in the discretion of the zoning board of reviews, and subject to any terms and conditions set forth by the zoning board of review, without prejudice, with the understanding that the defendant will not be expected to replace the trees they have already lawfully cut and removed from the premises. Right? The defendant shall submit to the zoning board of review for consideration specific design plans to restore or adequately remediate the conditions on the premises that have been disturbed since April 1st, 2014. 1. The installation of vegetative and/or fence screening along the northeasterly boundary with the premises accessory plat 23-3A, currently owned by Raymond Arzinski. And 2. Install engineered surface water runoff and drainage measures along said boundary area that will once again direct the flow of water through the existing culvert under the cul-de-sac situated on the adjacent property, and otherwise restore the flow of surface water runoff so that this substantially recreates similar conditions that existed for April 1st, 2014. So we have a plan before us that shows the swale and the berm. It doesn't show
labeled landscape berm. And then probably the engineer's plan will show what is gonna be kind of vegetation beyond that berm.
Okay,
On the stamp.
Berm and swell is installed, it just has to be landscaped.
okay.
So it seems to me that that meets the intent of, probably get what that are.
All right. Are you guys fine with, I'm just reading it back in the record so that we're clear on what was out there.
Clearly, it's, what they proposed along that westerly boundary line.
And again, in this, it's up to our discretion to allow, so if we want to have a limit as to how far back the mulch can go, we can do that. If we don't want to, that's fine. If we want to get into, I mean, you know, he's going to use that as a growing area. Do we want to limit the growing area so many feet? Do we want to come anywhere from this corner back?
It just seems to me that the underlying zone is RF already, and he's running a landscaping or a garden center. And it seems like it's appropriate to plant, if you're gonna plant shrubs or Christmas trees, as long as it doesn't, it's not beyond planting and raising and selling, it seems fair.
George, have these copies been shrunk from the original?
Have they been shrunk? I
From the
believe the scale is correct on that plan.
It's not looking at it. I might have to look at this scale.
No, this is good. If you measured it at 1,500, it's an inch long, so it's 1 inch is 50 feet.
Wow.
You there? That's big.
You're really gonna be building them things that big?
Yeah, they're 25 feet by 25 feet.
Well, so
Each pen?
Each pen.
Oh, so that might be a lot larger than we want. That's a lot more mulch than we expected.
And
Keep in mind, this is a neighborhood business. It's not a commercial zone. It's a neighborhood business that's in a residential zone. We have to be very careful if we're gonna allow mulch activity in the back, because we've already had a past history of it, and it was failing with the neighbors. For multiple reasons, but one of them was the mulch activity was going back. And we've got a lot of testimony from the neighbors upset with the amount of traffic that was going in on the property. Again, for multiple reasons, some of it being mulch, some of it being construction in the back to clean up the wet area. But I'd be very cautious about the size of that. If that, I mean, you guys seem a little, not shocked, but, you know, a little, unaware that that was gonna be that large. So, and again, it's within our purview to limit the size of those bins.
I'm not sure about the purview of the part on the consent order. I think it was the intention of vegetative state for it to get back to a natural state, not a state where there's going to be planting, irrigation, and sales, and lights, and,
Oh, in the rear you're talking
yeah.
about?
I think the consent order is very clear about that intention, is to restore.
So on item 8, if we get into that item 1, so it would be 8.1, it says installation of a vegetative or fence screening along the northeasterly boundary of the premises. It's Mr. Mazinski's property. Also the engineered surface water runoff. So is the berm in place of the vegetative or fence screening, or is it?
The berm is in place, the swale is in place, the berm has not been completely landscaped, and we're waiting for the spring.
So that will have some vegetation on it? Do we
Most
know
definitely.
what vegetation we're putting on it? Arborvitae?
Green giant arborvitae. They're already there.
How many, do you know? Are they going on
I have a bunch, I was just gonna space them out and, and they get big and tall.
I mean, I don't see in the consent order where it says the whole back of the property has to be vegetated. Do you recall? I don't see that in.
I agree with Barbara in the sense that I think the intent of that consent order was because based on the testimony from Mr. Mazinski, who was very upset about the back portion of that lot, which was actually back in 2014, when the garage outbuilding was approved. The condition was that everything behind that garage outbuilding remain as is.
I happen to be the only one that was in court that day, and I would refer you to the solicitor. We at all times represented the court. That would be a green area, a grow area we were going to plant back there. And I'll have your solicitor substantiate that in writing, and if need be, I'll get you a transcript.
To plant for commercial use, or to replant?
Replant and in a grow area for the, they wanted it green. They wanted us to grow things back there, allow it to return to its natural state.
Natural state.
My representation is we would prefer to grow, and they said that was fine.
So does it say the order restoring it to 2000?
I'm just saying in the sense of whether it's a grow area for something you sign versus the natural state versus an area where now at Christmas time you have lights strung up and you got music playing back there and you got people coming back to pick out Christmas trees and
What we envision a grow area to be is if you grow Christmas trees, they grow 6 to 8 feet, you go back and harvest them and they grow again.
So just to re-clarify here again on the consent order under number 8, and I think this will clear it up. The defendant shall submit, in the middle of this, the defendant shall submit to the zoning board of review for consideration specific design plans to restore or adequately remediate the conditions on the premises that have been disturbed since April 1st, 2014. Also including is the vegetative fence and swale and all the other stuff. So I think we're overlooking that. That is what our solicitor is pointing out, is that they restore or adequately remediate the conditions on the premises.
I don't think you do that by growing commercial.
Right, and that's up to us what we think is permissible back there. I mean, that's,
How far in you're allowed to go?
Yeah, how do you get by that? That's what I want to know.
That court order.
If your interpretation is correct, then that's not what, if George is correct, that him and, what's his name?
Kevin.
Kevin came up with something different. And you said,
Well,
The
the whole goal is so you don't look out there and you see a blighted area. We wanted it green, and that's what we're going to do.
It says repair or remediate.
I don't see it being that specific in here, that, or that vague where that it's a grow area and you can do things or not. I mean, the consent order is pretty specific where it needs to be, and then in some other areas, it's leaving it up to our purview to decide. Attorney Camoli was present, if that's what he recalls. I don't see it here in front of us, that statement saying that's going to be a growth. It doesn't mean that we can not have it if we decide. It's all up to us. What do we want to see back there? Do we want to see trees? Do we want to see partial trees? Do we want to shield Mr. Lozinski so he doesn't see anything else?
well,
He's the only one that can see it.
Mr. Lozinski's already getting burned and swale to alleviate his concerns.
Okay?
He's also getting arborvitae's on top of the berm based on testimony tonight.
Okay?
And his property always has had a water issue to begin with. So, I'm sympathetic to him, but he didn't cause the water issue.
Right. So the berm and the swale are going to help with the water issue. So as far as
It's going to help us. My point being, Jonathan, is that house, since the day Don McCumsky built it, the basement flooded.
So visually, as far as
They didn't change that.
So visually, as far as what's going on, is the berm and the arborvitae's on top enough in the view of the board to be enough vegetation back there? He was the one that had the biggest complaint visually of what's going on back there because it's all up right.
Yes, window.
Right.
Well, that's going to end his problem because he's going to be looking at arborvitae's. But the other part that we're talking about is if they want to grow trees and then keep growing trees, is that the intent of the consent?
What?
It's green and it's remediated at that point.
I was not in court when they made this.
Right,
Get this
that's
agreement,
what
but
I'm
at the end
saying.
of the day, it seems to me what they were doing was looking to get to stabilize the soil. That right now, it sounds like it's not stable, there's nothing holding down the earth,
Correct.
and you've got a muddy state back there. And whether it's revegetated naturally, or revegetated with some sort of rows of evergreens or something, to me, potatoes come out, you know, it's.
Well, that's what I'm tending to agree with you on, that
He keeps his mulch piles out of there, which it seems like that can be our decision. And he's got just something that's vegetables or plants back there, that seems fair. You agree with it?
so 25 by 25 bins,
Yeah.
4 feet tall, can hold just shy of 100 yards, like 97. So if we say that he has to keep that height, and he already said he gets them delivered, he can get them delivered in a 100-yard truck, one shot.
100-yard truck?
Yeah.
That's a son.
Well, that's how we did it before. So if, well, can you let me finish? So by doing that, if he can actually do that as he says, then I gotta assume at the rate of sale, the truck's only gonna be there a couple of months. Right. Which is good news for the neighbors. See where I'm going with that? So we eliminate, in that same amount of time, he could have 6 or 7 25-yard loads delivered.
All right, so let's drop off.
So let's drop it.
He has more material there, so potentially we'll have more pickups, right?
Well, we're already talking about what size trucks we're gonna allow to pick up there. So if we stay to the 7-yard truck like he has, maximum.
And again, just for sake of argument, he's been there for 5 years now, 4 seasons. How many yards a year do you typically sell for mulch?
I've some, I don't know, about 300.
The total, the whole year?
So that's 3
Truckloads, so once a month, or whatever.
It's still a business, John.
No, I'm not arguing, I'm just trying to
During
be
the
fast.
during the day when he's open, if trucks are coming in and out, it's not the end of the world. That business has been there
Right.
for 50 years, or more than that.
I'm not arguing one way or the other, I'm just trying to get specifics on the record.
I know, we want to protect the neighbors as well, but I think by doing this and putting everything in the building envelope like it should have been, from day one,
But also,
we're doing that.
seems to me if you do an imaginary line across the property, we've got that 75-foot dimension right there, just put that straight across. You say everything from there back can be agricultural plantings,
You read my mind.
then everything in the front would be remain.
So what Dan's saying, so that dog leg that comes off the back, if we do an imaginary perpendicular one,
May I see where you're pointing to?
Right here, George, going across
Wrong
again.
point.
Where the jog of the property is.
Okay.
Just
going across there.
Consent order, because I think the consent order only allows for residential purposes only, as may be specified by zoning board, but that even the zoning board is prohibited from allowing for any commercial mulch. So I guess you can define what residential purpose means, because it says prohibited at all, other than what mulch is intended for residential purposes only, as specified by you. Residential purposes only, as specified by you. And when you're talking about 100 yards of mulch that you've been,
Yeah, that's talking about he's selling to residents.
is it residential sales?
It's residential sales.
and it's for no commercial purpose or use, other than what mulch is intended for residential purposes. Residential, commercial use, residential sales?
That would be like the average homeowner coming
So-
in, wanting to get a pickup truck full of
I think that's,
versus,
Is that the clientele that you get?
Commercial?
Yeah,
yeah.
mostly it's all usually non-custom.
I would
Well,
Very
there's
rarely do you get landscape because they do road townships.
Yeah.
A lot of them.
They buy direct instead of paying your markup.
And I have to push them a lot in the morning.
Right? Sorry.
I mean, reading that, I would tend to think that's what the
For
quote
residential
was set for residential sales, not residential use. It's,
Residential purposes, it says.
right, so not that he's stockpiling or reselling wholesale to another landscape.
Right. Well, as he just testified, they're not gonna stop at his and pay more when they can go a mile up the street and pay direct.
You wouldn't think.
Yeah. Well, if that's what the consent says, they have to live by it and they can't sell commercial.
You have to sell residential.
Residential. And you're comfortable with that?
So, you know, just for homeowners, you?
Just homeowners.
So if a guy comes and buys a bunch of plants and stuff, and he's a landscaper, I can't sell him? Huh?
Not according to what the court says, not us, that's not us.
All right, let's do on that one for a minute. So let's go back to the dog leg. So as Dan mentioned, that's kind of what I've been thinking, is if we took that, so if we take that narrowest part of the property, that's the back half of the property, if we allowed that for a growing area, not a greenhouse growing area, not more structures, but if we allow that for an in-ground growing area, right? That will add vegetation to the ground. And if he wants to plant, I mean, if I'm just assuming, if he wants to plant like little baby arborvitaes and things like that and let them grow, is that the intent of what he was looking for?
I'm okay with it, because that's our FAD land, that's what you're supposed to do.
So now if he did Christmas trees back there, if he grew Christmas trees per se, right? If he's selling them, and are we okay with customers not walking in on the Christmas trees, picking them out of the ground?
In this, I'm just gonna throw this out there, if he wanted to grow Christmas trees, then I would say the stipulation would be that they have to be cut and moved to the retail area for sold, to be sold.
So what if he left that semi-vegetated, and then he stuck pre-cut Christmas trees in the ground and had customers walking in on them? Are we okay with that?
Did you hear what I just said?
Say it again.
What I said was, if he wanted to grow Christmas trees back there, and he did grow them, that as part of our decision, that no retail sales back there, they would have to be caught and moved to the retail area to be sold.
The truth is, John, you're talking 3/4 acre of land there. You could
There's no way to do Christmas trees in 3/4
5 by
acre.
5, 6 by 6.
No, but that's not, I know, they could.
Barely. It takes years.
Yeah,
I
it's,
go
Yeah,
to
but that's
touch
a,
on my tree. No, it's like, they're huge areas when they're in the Where's something else?
Barbara, do you want to stand up and get sworn in and put on record? Sorry, I don't want to be rude, but
I hear your.
we have to have discussion on the record, and we're trying to put the due diligence in. I already know the answers to some of these things, but I have to ask them.
He's testing us.
No, it is. I want to make sure that everybody's aware of the hypotheticals out there. Some of them seem far-fetched, but you know what? We've had a lot of far-fetched ones come back and slam us in the face because we didn't ask the tough questions.
If as a board, we stipulate that anything coming out of the grow area has to be brought to the retail area for sale, that doesn't hurt him and it helps him.
Well, yeah, you didn't prohibit any retail sales in the grow area.
Done. Perfect. I think that's what I was trying to get at.
yeah.
So does that complete the grow area?
Yeah, it's still more road.
No, well, our solicitors is worried about what the consent order says as far as what we're looking at as the grow area and how to vegetate, what they were thinking.
It says, this is anything about grow area, it says for considerations, plans to restore or adequately remediate. So you have to all agree that by starting a grow area that was never there, that you adequately remediated it.
I'm comfortable
I
with
would
that.
agree with that.
It's definitely remediated. And I don't care what you're growing, like Danny stated, it's stabilizing the soil and making it green, for lack of better terms.
So it's something that I think I said at one of the past hearings, or I don't know, I say so much sometimes I can't remember. No, I mean, the property owner also has the right to cut vegetation on it, right?
You know, I can't speak for the judge, but it would make sense that what he wants is something pleasant to look at. If you're growing at arborvitaes or whatever, it's more pleasant to look at than the dirt that was back there.
So
I'm sure that's what the intent was.
Well, it's a consent order, so, I mean, George is right when he says it was between him and Kevin, really. Right.
I can assure you that if we're not in compliance with the consent order, both Kevin McAllister and I will report back to this board.
So would the board want an area along Mr. Mazinski's to be left untouched with a grower along that?
They pretty much already.
Yeah.
The
Berm's
berm's
on the
in there.
switches.
You just want to leave 2/3 of that line, or at least half that line is a berm with a out-of-way line, which is part of the consent order.
So you think that's fine?
I'm perfectly comfortable with what Mr. Lozinski is getting for a buffer. I mean, it's fairly large between the swale and the berm.
So the berm will not be part of the road?
No, it can't be. It's a berm.
And he's gonna plant the out-of-ways on top of it, so it's gonna have.
Right. Those are permanent, they're not gonna be
No, they can't.
saleable. All right, I'm just getting out of it.
And that's your interpretation as well, right, George? You're the-
Most definitely.
Yeah.
All right, so, when we get to a decision point, we'll have more conditions and these facts put in there, we'll discuss them, if we can regurgitate all of this, we'll take some time to go through them, so we can get on the record very clearly. Yeah, well, no, I know some neighbors still want to speak, so,
Yeah, we definitely want to do that.
do you guys have any more questions?
No, we covered the big items.
Do you have any?
Nothing further, I concluded already, I thank you for your time and patience.
Thank you, Counselor.
Thank you. Do you have any neighbors want to speak?
Can you reach your hand, you solemnly swear the testimony you should give will be the truth, the whole truth, nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
Can you please state your name and address?
Karen Lees, 171 Ashley Road, Bradford. So just as a matter of principle, there's just a couple of things that I just would feel better if it's on the record in relation to the last meeting. I have a letter here that was written by Brad Ward to George Camoli, March 2014, I believe was even before the first zoning meeting. So I would beg to differ when Mr. Camoli says that he was not representing them. He was representing them. And Brad discusses, not pertaining to the greenhouse, but he just discussed all of his concerns, which are many, about different things that they wanted to do on the premises. So I would find it very hard to believe that Brad ever gave any permission for anything to be done on that property as stated. I mean, just as a matter of principle for me, I want that noted. The greenhouse structure, I just wanted to note too that in the last meeting last month, it was part of the discussion that it was okay to have, the board felt that it would be okay to leave the big greenhouse because it's going to make as much noise as any other greenhouse. But I just want to state, which I don't think is even an issue anymore, but it's not the same structure as the other greenhouses, which is what makes the noise. So I just want to be clear about that. I know it doesn't sound like it's an issue anymore. My concern with the mulch is what's happened in the past with the mulch. You know, it's not the customer that comes to pick up occasionally. It's for the landscaping jobs that he's doing and for the constant in and out, in and out, in and out, and all of the noise that comes with that. That's been all, you know, part of the complaint all along, so I would be concerned about that. And as far as the Christmas trees, you know, what my concern there is what Sherry said. I mean, Christmas trees, okay, so now you're opening him up to eventually, well, okay, so I think I heard you say that he'd have to cut them and then bring them up. Okay, but now we gotta listen to chainsaws cutting them constantly or what? I don't know, this is my
I think
concern.
this might have been our fault. We were talking about Christmas trees, but realistically, he does not have the acreage to do Christmas trees.
What's a hypothetical?
It was a
Okay,
hypothetical.
okay.
In any kind,
Thanks,
about
clears
the
that up
most
for
he
me
could
then,
get
because I
away
don't
with.
care. That's
And you
fine.
could say, correct me if I'm wrong, but the most he could get away with is starting abrevieties
That's fine.
and digging them back up and taking them somewhere.
Okay.
Am I right? I mean, that area is so small. Can you do anything else?
Right.
Well, they're the ones that keep talking about Christmas trees, so I'm just
No, I think we
concerned down
started
the
that.
road,
I think I
what
started.
happens with that. And I want it clear that that can't happen, because it's gonna start this all over again. And I don't want to listen to chainsaws all day either, in a certain, you know.
But I
You know
think
where
I
I'm getting?
started that, just
Okay.
talking about,
And that's fine, as
it
long
was
as we're all clear.
hypothetical, but he really doesn't have room enough to do Christmas trees.
But they've mentioned it many times tonight about doing Christmas trees.
I think that was.
How many times did I hear Christmas trees?
I think that was us. He never said boo about Christmas trees.
It's, I mean, as Ronnie stated to me twice, because I didn't hear him first, that the retail sales would be put
Yeah,
to the
and that's
front
fine.
of the property, you know, from the front
Mhm.
half,
Yeah,
which to me sounds much more appealing. The second time I heard it.
yeah.
Oh,
And we could stipulate no Christmas trees. I don't think they mind at all.
I just don't want a problem down the road, that's all. And the
Yeah,
only other
that
thing.
was me, unfortunately, I'm sorry.
It's okay, okay. I would just, I have a question. So they've said that they will remove the shed or sheds and the greenhouse. So I would ask that, you know, you as a board, are you going to put a time frame on that? Because it's one thing to come up here and say you're going to do something, as we've seen for 5 years, and it doesn't get done. So I would like, I'm asking you to please put some time frame or stipulation on him as to when that gets done. I don't want to keep coming back and asking for it to be done.
I think that's
We
fair.
have a building inspector now, so does that fall under your duties, then, to enforce it, or Sherry's?
It would be under the department to enforce it, but unless he calls to say it's been removed, we're not going to drive by it every day.
Right.
Yeah, and I don't want to have to be calling Sherry constantly and saying, hey, when's he supposed to take it down? And then
We can stipulate.
I don't want to live like that.
well, it's already reasonable. Mrs. Lees, you mentioned in the past that there was lighting that was shining on your property.
Yeah,
Where was, is that on that big greenhouse? Or is it on a different?
I believe it, no, it's on the big greenhouse. Yeah, it isn't on every night. It probably maybe is a sensor. Like, I mean, Ted could probably tell you. I don't know what makes it come on, but when it does, yeah.
If the big greenhouse was removed, that light's a non-issue.
I'm sure it'll be gone if the greenhouse is removed, so that's fine.
Okay. Sarah, did you see the new set of plans?
I did not.
Do you want to look at them?
She can take what she likes.
I don't know if your husband saw
Yeah.
them, or if you want to come up, or if we can give you a copy. Dan will give his up.
It's not really understanding much better than I.
Take that.
This is
So if you, I don't know if you need the old plans, or not, I mean, you guys live there, so you probably know what's there. So that large greenhouse that's in the corner, when you have the light, is totally going on.
Okay.
The shed that's on the front of your driveway is totally going
Yeah.
off the property.
That sounds like
The small shed that's on the opposite side,
the one I
he's
don't
gonna
see.
move, he's gonna move more to the rear, in the corner where the back greenhouse is. Your husband can see it on that. You're welcome to look at this one if you want.
Yeah.
So you see the small shed, the last structure right in the center, the little tiny one?
Yes,
Next to the mulch bins?
right here.
No, up higher.
Okay, right here?
Yep, that's the shed that's
Okay.
over on the opposite side,
Okay.
okay? So that will get moved there, the mulch bins are over in that, you see where they are?
Yep, yeah.
Does the placement of that mulch bin concern you in any way?
Where were the mulch bins gonna be before? They were way over?
They were, see the dog leg that goes up to the back, the narrow part?
Run.
Yeah. Yeah, that's good.
No, I don't care. Help me with this. Because Max and me. Okay. Yeah. Yeah, no, I see where they're going, but I want to know where they're gonna be
So
before second.
before they were up again.
Oh,
Okay.
gotcha,
So this
gotcha.
is, somewhere in this area is where they were
So
before.
they're coming way up.
So they're coming up here, so he's keeping the activity of
Yeah,
the whole.
gotcha.
within a setback.
So what we're gonna do is we're gonna make a grow area nearby.
Yeah.
He's gonna help him, right?
Yeah.
You have already have some.
Yeah.
If you want.
Yeah.
The fencing is here to kind of show you some of the things.
Yes.
I think we'll talk about it, you might see the.
Yeah. I'm missing that. Yeah, and you know, if he's doing that, he's constantly from him to get promotions and stuff.
Bring us some of those on the wall. Keep that on record. So, do you have some concerns about the mulch activity?
It was just what I said before, you know. I have no problem with where that is.
So Mrs. Lees in the past has expressed concerns with the noise, the tailgates and the beepers and stuff like that. He has the activity.
What's the hours on?
Well, yeah, I mean, he had told us before, I don't know if it was, what were your hours of operation, Mr. Sherman? Your normal?
Sometimes it's just 8 to 7 usually. So we close at 6 or something, if you get the machine, you move it, so.
What would be the hours of mulch sales?
Usually it's a lot earlier than that. I mean, you know, not as late as what I meant, so.
Because I mean, I think that's a concern as a neighbor too, and a resident, because you gotta remember, you've got residential neighbors. If you've got tailgates and beepers going off at 7 AM.
Yeah, I hear them from my neighbors also.
It's not gonna go over well, and you're gonna be back in here getting yelled at.
Well, it's also all day long too.
Okay.
You know what I'm saying?
Well,
Is
no,
it on certain jobs, not every day all day long, I don't mean it that way.
right, and I mean, so some of that activity was an overexpansion of what he thought he could do before, and you lived it.
Yeah.
So I mean, we have to keep
I
that
just
in mind
wanted-
that we want, if we're gonna keep this.
You know what, Ted? I was nice when I was up here and I was quiet and I didn't say a word, so if you could please just button it
Excuse me, I'm stretching
and
my
show me
back.
some respect. Stop whispering and giggling and whatever else you're doing behind my back.
Guys, please address the board.
You should go out.
You should be getting
Karen,
started.
please, I know.
Jonathan, I'm here, seriously, I'm ready to blow my you-know-what.
I got two.
Address it, Ted.
Seriously, I've said nothing, I don't sneeze, I don't boo. But when I'm up here, what do I see in the camera? Him laughing behind me, making fun of me. You all know it, you all see it. And I'm up here and all I can hear is him. Is that rude to me or what? Now you tell me. All of you up there, you tell me right now.
Everyone has to be.
Seriously.
Be respectful.
I just want you guys to get my back. I've done nothing. Nothing. I've tried, and I've been lied to, and I'm done. I want all of you to think about me, not him. I didn't sit up here and lie. I'm sorry, I knew it would come to this, but I would just lose it, because it's just, you have no idea.
I agree with you that he needs to stop and George needs to take care of his client. George?
Yes.
It's just rude,
But
and I
for you
can't
to stand
hear.
up there and say that we didn't have your back or haven't been trying to help you is unfair as well.
I don't know about that, Ron, because there's been many times when I've really felt just left aside. 5 years, Ron.
I know. but-
Come on, you can't deny this should have been taken care of a long time ago. You guys gotta take some room for that.
You're taking a lot of
Stop,
wisdom.
stop.
Taking a lot.
Yes, you have.
I'm sorry, I apologize for my behavior.
I think with the.
I make a motion, let's table it, let everybody collect, and come back next month, we'll finish it.
You have a motion on the floor? Second. All in favor? All right, table,
Thank you.
we'll meet next month.
Obviously, the hearing continues. More than that.
So can I entertain a motion to approve the minutes for January 17th? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Can I entertain a motion, do we have to have a motion about that?
Yeah.
Can I entertain a motion to ratify the decision for the hotel arrangement last month? So moved. All in favor? Aye.
Sorry, I didn't do it first.
Yeah, one more. Give me the month.
Who made a motion to table Ronnie did? You, man, Ron. God. Wait, I.
It just comes to the point now. It's easy to separate.
What? I'm just thinking,
And what about the
75-page.
now, motion to approve the ad hoc transcript?
I read that, by the way.
I did
The
too.
75-page
Did a great job.
Yes.
We all did.
So can I entertain a motion to approve the transcript from last month's meeting, which was on this, it was part of this hearing.
Okay,
Oh,
motion
so
to
January
accept.
17th.
Make a motion to accept.
Second, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay. You got credit. Joe.
Motion to adjourn the meeting.
Do I get a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Good night.